The second annual Los Angeles Food and Wine Festival will take place at the beginning of August and feature seminars, tastings, as well as over 100 of the nation's most esteemed chefs. St. Vincent's will also receive a portion of the festival's proceeds. The Palms Neighborhood Council hosted its 19th annual Palms Bike Rodeo on a recent Saturday at Palms Elementary School. LAPD officers were on hand to teach kids about bike safety. The family-friendly event also featured a bike auction as well as arts and crafts activities.
We put this event together every year to encourage bike safety, to encourage people to actually ride their bikes for all the benefits that come from that. And also, our neighborhood is very congested, so we try to encourage people to bike more.
It's just perfect for the kids because they have a lot of opportunity to interact with the community.
The Palms area in Councilman Paul Koretz's district has had a long history with biking. The first in the nation BMX event was held at Palms Recreation on Overland Avenue in the 1960s. If you live in the West Valley and need help opening a new business, help is here in the form of the newly opened Reseda branch of the Los Angeles Business Source Center. A program of the mayor's office, the Business Source Center provides startup ventures and small business owners cost-effective tools to help their business grow and remain competitive. The nonprofit Valley Economic Development Center, or VEDC, which has a long history assisting job seekers and small businesses, received a grant from the city to operate this new office. And as we told you earlier, we've taken LA This Week on the road to Councilman Jose Huizar's Broadway Historic Corridor. And over my right shoulder is one of the restaurants we told you about earlier, Umami Katessen, which opened up not too long ago as part of the renaissance that's taking place here. But another corner of Councilman Huizar's district is also getting some much-needed sprucing up. Thanks to new state funding, Highland Park will get new park space for kids and families to play. Anna Marcos reports.
It was a festive crowd that celebrated in Highland Park. The reason, one more piece of neglected inner-city turf at this corner of York Boulevard and Avenue 50 will soon become a green pocket park.
This shows that persistence pays off, that we should never give up in trying to improve our community, and it is because of the community's loud voice that we have received funding.
Community members worked with Councilmember Jose Huizar's office to get close to $3 million in funding from Proposition 84, a state measure that allocates money for more parks and open space in hard-hit urban areas like Highland Park. State Senator Kevin De Leon authored the measure.
During the course of my campaign, when I walked in Highland Park, when I walked in Lincoln Heights and El Sereno and City Terrace and other places, Echo Park, there was a dearth of green parks and open space. Parks belong to everybody, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of where you come from.
The York Boulevard and Avenue 50 Pocket Park is just part of the York Vision Plan, a project by Councilmember Jose Huizar's office to improve the area with more bike lanes and pedestrian-friendly features.
I think it's great for the community. I have a business here, I have a home here and a family, and I'm very excited about it.
I have business here. I live here, so I want it to be nice.
The greening of LA takes another step as another piece of neglected turf grows some grass. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The Highland Park Pocket Park is just one of two City of LA projects to receive money from Prop 84 in this round of funding. Well, if you're just joining us, we have taken LA This Week on the road this week, as you can see, here to the historic Broadway corridor downtown to highlight some of the many exciting things happening here. So if you haven't come down to Broadway recently, come and check out the restaurants or take a tour of the architecture. It is beautiful down here. And here again are some other things to do in other parts of our city. If you've ever found yourself singing songs from The Little Mermaid in your shower, this is the event for you. Join in with hundreds of your fellow Angelinos to belt out popular and classic tunes at the Friday night sing-alongs hosted by the Walt Disney Concert Hall. The next sing-along on Friday, June 22nd, is of Disney favorites. The free event takes place from 6:30 to 8 p.m., but you do have to line up for tickets, which are distributed starting at 6 p.m. on a first-come, first-served basis. No experience necessary, and song sheets are provided. The Walt Disney Concert Hall is located at 111 South Grand Avenue, downtown. More info can be found at musiccenter.org. Join New Horizons for their annual Walk on the Horizon 5K walk to help make a difference in the lives of adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The walk takes place Saturday, June 23rd at Woodley Park, located at 6350 Woodley Avenue in Van Nuys. The event will feature a 5K run at 8:30 a.m. and a non-competitive walk around the park at 9 a.m., followed by an awards celebration with food and live music. For more information on Walk on the Horizon or to register, visit newhorizons-sfv.org/walk. The Department of Public Works Bureau of Sanitation will be hosting its Discover Recycling open house on Saturday, June 23rd at the Harbor District Yard, located at 1400 North Gaffey Street in San Pedro. The event will be held from 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. The event invites residents of all ages to meet sanitation collection truck drivers and staff, enjoy truck demonstrations and facility tours. You can also drop off your old unwanted tires at this event. Go to bureauofsanitationopenhouses.blogspot.com for more info. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do. Earlier, we showed you some of the new businesses that have taken up residence here on Broadway, including Umami Katesin behind me, as well as what will be the new Tarina Tarantino Design headquarters and the Ace Hotel, both on the 900 block of Broadway, to the old Clifton's cafeteria on the 600 block, which is currently undergoing a makeover. But now we introduce you to yet another store to take up residence here on Broadway, a convenience store to be exact, but one that's redefining food on the go. From Japan to downtown LA, Famima is a chain of upscale convenience stores that's part of the Japanese-owned Family Mart stores. This newly opened branch here at the historic Spring Arcade building is just the latest in a string of businesses trying to get in on the ground floor, so to speak, in what many believe is the start of something big here on Broadway.
It has about 12 historic theaters, beautiful shopping areas, also beautiful architecture, and this is a place where people came to get entertained and do their shopping. But throughout the years, it's had its challenges. At nighttime, this place, I must say, was a ghost town because the last year or so it's coming back to life. And through our efforts to improve the streetscape and landscape and make pass laws that make it easier for building owners to convert their properties, we're getting the results we would like to see.
Jumping at the chance to be a part of the area's unquestionable revitalization, Famima plans to operate the 1,800 square foot space at the arcade building 24 hours, 7 days a week. And Famima is not your typical convenience store, selling only food in air vacuumed bags.
Salad, good stuff.
There are salads, sushi rolls, and fresh fruit to choose from, proving that food on the go doesn't have to be bad for you. But of course, there are still your convenience store staples like coffee, tea, and sweet treats.
It's always good to have options, you know, and you know what? I don't think you'd see that in the past where you have fruits and vegetables. Before it was just potato chips and soda. Right now you get different options to have healthy lifestyles.
Famima is hoping to cash in on the appetite for change here on Broadway.
We really saw what was happening on Broadway, and I targeted this area. We targeted this area, and I said, I want a store somewhere between 5th and 7th Streets on Broadway. When that gets going, we're ready to start working our way along Broadway and the rest of this downtown area. But we love the Broadway and what was happening out here.
And what's going on is just the start of many more things to come.
We also have Figaro Bistro coming in, a popular restaurant in Silver Lake that has decided to call Broadway its home. And Ross Dress for Less, the first major retailer, is coming back to the old Woolworths building.
Winds of change on Broadway, bringing together the old and the new in the hopes of making history once again. The arcade building is located in the 500 block of Broadway. And as you can see over my right shoulder, Two Boots Pizza from New York also recently opened up a branch here in the 800 block of Broadway, right next to the Orpheum Theater. Well, that's going to do it for this special on-location episode of LA This Week, where we highlight some of the exciting things going on here. We hope you enjoyed this tour as much as we did. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacitieview.org. You can also follow or like us on Facebook. We'll see you back in the studio next week for more of LA This Week.
Now is our time to work as one. To create something beautiful. To start again. To ease a burden. To provide hope where there was none. There's so many ways to create the good. What will you do?
Start creating the good by visiting iparticipate.org.
Hi, I'm Nina. This is my daughter Miranda, and we live in Silver Lake. We love the cultural diversity of Los Angeles. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel.
It's Wednesday, June 20th. I want to welcome everybody to the Los Angeles City Council chambers. If I could get sergeants, if you could get me some quiet. I will be calling this meeting to order. Thank you. Channel 35, I didn't give you the cue. I'll be calling this meeting to order shortly. Again, the City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. The public is always welcome to our council meetings and our committee hearings. Mr. Clerk, I believe, and I have been wrong before, but I believe that we have a quorum. So with that said, can you call the roll?
Alarcon, Buscaino, Cardenas, Englander, Garcetti, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Zion, Wesson, 13 members present and a quorum. Mr. President.
Okay, first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Okay, Mr. Krikorian moves, Mr. Koretz seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Labange moves, Mr. Reyes seconds. That brings us where, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, that brings us to items 1 through 5. However, before doing so, may I announce the committee reports for items 7, 11, and 16. Again, 7, 11, and 16 have been submitted and circulated for council's consideration. As it pertains to section number 1, items 1 through 5 are items noticed for public hearing. There are requests to continue item 2 to June 27 and to receive and file items 3B and 3C.
Okay, without objection. So that was 3B and C?
Correct.
Okay.
And item 2 was to June 27.
Okay.
Mr. President, we do have cards on item 1, sir.
Members' specials on this first section. Okay, on the remaining items, let's prepare to vote. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, I think our next section is items 6 through 20. If we could go to those items.
Items 6 through 20 are items for which public hearings have been held. Motions are required for items 6 and 20, sir.
Mr. Labange.
Could you hold item 8 on the desk for amending motion?
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask that item 6 be continued until Friday, June 22nd, please.
Mr. Clerk, we're okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, without objection. Okay, member specials. Mr. Weezer.
7 and 20, please.
Hold on.
Mr. Garcetti.
Number 10, please, and you can put me down on 20 as well after Mr. Weezer.
Mr. Buscaino.
16, please.
And that item would be pertaining to what? I feel devilish today, Mr. And obviously, Joy B., you feel devilish today as well. Okay, members, any more specials? Mr. Parks. Excuse me, I didn't hear you. 9? Okay, on the remaining items, let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next, Mr. Clerk, items, I think that's 21 through 31.
That is correct, sir. Items 21 through 31 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, without objection, those items are now before us. Do you have cards on those?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay, members, any specials? Specials, members? Okay, then let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, where does that bring us to, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, that takes council back to presentations, item called special, or items not on council's agenda.
Okay, now before I acknowledge Mr. Labange for a special introduction, I think it's important that I make an introduction to ensure that I can go home and sleep in my own bed. I'm visited today by my wife, Fabian. We just celebrated our 31st wedding anniversary. In fact, let me ask you, give her a bigger round of applause than that. Give her some cheers. I might be able to watch sports all evening tonight. Okay, with that said, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Labange, and then I'm going to go to Mr. Garcetti.
Mr. President and the First Lady of the City Council, Fabian Wesson, good morning. With us today here is Ms. Pease. Ms. Pease is the very special deputy for the United States State Department. And she is here with a very special group of people from around the world who represent the United States in consulates. From Kenya, from Yemen, from Ghana, stand up, from Nepal, from Egypt, from Paraguay, from Marijuana, from Peru, from the Republic of Congo, from Burma, from Lithuania, from Cambodia, from the Czech Republic, from Brazil and Vietnam. If you could all stand, they are our representatives in our consulate. And the great thing about the State Department, from my recent work with our Sister City program, is they're on a mission to get to know people and tell them how great America is and how it's an opening place. Please give them a formal welcome to the City of Los Angeles.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. You got it.
Welcome to Los Angeles. Enjoy your stay. With that said, I'd like to call on Mr. Garcetti for a presentation. Mr. Garcetti, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Nice to see you, Fabian. Nice to be here with everybody. Colleagues, I'd like for you to journey back in time a little bit for a moment to 30 years ago. Today we remember one of the most infamous hate crimes in our nation's history as we commemorate the 30th anniversary of Vincent Chin's death. Vincent Chin was a Chinese-American man who was beaten to death by two men, Ronald Ebens and Michael Nitz, who blamed him for the loss of American manufacturing jobs in the automobile industry. They mistakenly thought he was Japanese, and they took out their frustrations on him with a baseball bat on the night of his bachelor party just before he was to be married. Chin's death was the direct result of ignorance, malicious racial stereotypes, a lack of understanding, education, and dialogue. In the midst of economic downturn, we saw Americans, some of whom through racism took out their hatred and their frustration about the economic situation 30 years ago on fellow Americans. But just as horrific as the attack was, so too were the ensuing trials. Both perpetrators were charged with and pled guilty to manslaughter. They were fined just $3,000 and given 3 years probation. Juries acquitted both men later in civil rights cases. And if you remember the story, it was moved to Cleveland. And of the 120-something people who were interviewed to be on that jury, there were only 19 who had ever in their lives interacted with an Asian American, and they were all disqualified from the jury. Neither of the perpetrators ever served any time in jail. I'm sorry, it was Cincinnati, Ohio, that the hearing was held. Vincent Chin's death and the treatment of his killers were shocking wake-up calls for the Asian Pacific Islander community in America. The trials in particular became a catalyst for a unified pan-ethnic Asian American movement, uniting people from all communities and walks of life to fight against hate. As we see in the bullying movement, when it doesn't matter if you're gay or not, it's whether you're perceived to be gay, that many people finally realize that they too could be the victims and that this is something that we all had a responsibility for. In the Asian Pacific Islander community, it didn't matter if you were Chinese American or Vietnamese American, Japanese American, Korean American. There was an importance to be outraged and to come together. And certainly for all Americans, whether Asian Pacific Islander or not, it was a moment for us to reflect on what it meant to be an American. So some 30 years later, we remember the lessons of Chin's death, as important today as they were many years ago. And this weekend, Asian Americans for Progress is organizing town hall meetings across the country to reflect on this case, to make sure that his memory is not lost, but more than that, that we continue to catalyze forward action, to strategize for next steps. And here in Los Angeles, the meeting will be held at 11 a.m. at the Japanese American National Museum. We must continue working to stop hate crimes, to stop stereotyping, discrimination, bullying, acts of violence, and we must continue to promote education and tolerance as crucial resources in creating a more just and prosperous nation. And so on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, I want to thank you, colleagues, for joining me today with the Mayor in declaring June 23rd, 2012 as Vincent Chin Remembrance Day. And I'd like to ask Curtis Chin, who is the writer and producer of Vincent Hu, board president of Asian Pacific Americans for Progress, to say a few words. Will be followed by Preeti Kulkarni, who is the board member for Asian Pacific Americans for Progress. And please, let us remember Vincent Chin on this day.
Thank you, Councilmember Garcetti and the City Council for recognizing this very important day. I'm actually from Detroit, and my mom is here as well, and this was obviously a case that affected our local community in Detroit. But you might wonder, well, why does this case still have significance today? And the reason is because hate crimes and this notion of Asian Americans as being outsiders is still something prevalent, something that we still deal with today in places like Los Angeles. And the fact that this case really became national, even organizing events here in Los Angeles back in the 80s, just shows you what a powerful story this is. And we really wanted to bring it back to people's consciousness so that a crime like this doesn't happen again. And like Councilmember Garcetti said, we do have a giant event going on this weekend, which Preeti will talk about.
The event this Saturday will take place at 11 o'clock at the Japanese American National Museum. The National Google Hangout will be followed by a presentation by Stuart Quo and Margaret Lee Thomas at the LA event. We have over 35 cities in 25 states participating in our national town hall to commemorate this important day. Thank you all for the resolution.
And thank you very much, Mr. President. And let's thank those folks who are here in their work to remember Vincent, to reduce these hate crimes and to promote tolerance in our city. Please welcome them and thank them by giving them a round of applause. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Ms. Perry, are you ready with your presentation? And let's say goodbye to our delegation from around the globe. And again, thank you for coming. Okay, Ms. Perry, you have the floor.
Where are they? Oh, come on. Come on up here. Oh, I'm like, where are they? Come on up. Is everybody coming up? Hi. Thank you. Don't worry, she's not going to come. I know her. I'm going to take pictures. Okay.
Property owner and Larry Light here, Michael. The whole family's here. Everyone who makes it possible, the partnership.
That's true. Come on in. Come close.
And ITA has the video.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Everybody here? Come on up, Larry. Here. I'll hide that for you. So, it's okay. Okay, great. 10 years ago, the collaboration between Central City East Association, EVOC or EVOQ Properties, the Los Angeles Homeless Services Association, Chrysalis, and Waste Management has yielded a truly innovative program to serve the homeless population on Skid Row. In 2002, the Central City East Association and the Downtown Industrial District Business Improvement District opened a homeless property storage check-in center to provide a clean, safe, and secure place where homeless individuals could voluntarily store their personal possessions. The check-in center was the first of its kind in the nation and serves as a destination for homeless people to store their most basic necessities, such as clothing, bedding, photographs, personal mementos, while they attend whatever they need to do, personal engagements such as doctor's appointments, job interviews, job training. The center provides a reasonable expectation that their property is safe and not on the streets where it could be stolen or confiscated. The check-in center is a crucial resource to hundreds of cities' homeless people as they gain traction on the road to recovery. It is also key to businesses in the downtown industrial area who can rest assured that the environment is free from debris that could block entrances or obstruct sidewalks. The Central City East Association's 20,000 square foot facility is open 6 days a week and is made possible by the support from the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, EVOQ Properties, and Waste Management. The facility's staffing is provided by Chrysalis and employs formerly homeless individuals who are gaining job skills that will help them break the cycle of homelessness. The need for this type of center has never been more clear. So today, I would like all of us to join in celebrating 10 years of this operation and wish them the best for many years to come. And now we would like to show you a very brief video that will give you a better idea of just how this facility operates.
Right now, I'm currently homeless. It's hard to get into a shelter right now.
For the residents of Skid Row, simple things can be a struggle, like finding a place to sleep, to eat, or wash up. Their daily struggle also includes taking care of their possessions. Skid Row inhabitants, like everyone else, have clothes, prescription drugs, ID papers, toilet gear, bedding, personal mementos. All of it necessary and precious to them, but not always safe on Skid Row.
The cold, hard streets are not a welcome place.
And for the homeless, their belongings can also be a pain, limiting their mobility, their opportunities, their dignity. Skid Row regulars put it this way: try going to a job training class, seeing a doctor, while hauling around a grocery cart full of your possessions. But there is an alternative, a program pioneered by the Central City East Association. It's now celebrating its 10th anniversary, and it's seen as a national model. It's called the Check-In Program, and it's located in a donated warehouse. Here, nearly 700 Skid Row residents store their belongings in bins. Call them big plastic closets on wheels, all free to the homeless and those living in missions and emergency shelters. Peggy Washington day to day runs the check-in program. That includes getting ready for the morning rush hour. The program's clients are eager to get to their big plastic closets to fetch a fresh pair of clothes, get their medicine, put away their sleeping bags.
My jacket, my bag, some other clothes and personal stuff.
My money ran out. I'm like, wow, where am I going to put my stuff at? And then someone told me about this place.
This man who sleeps on the street relies on the check-in program to safeguard his belongings. Others say the check-in program is a huge help as they try to put their lives together on Skid Row.
So this frees me up to do the things I need to do to get out of this situation. I have a doctor's appointment today, and I also need to check my email because I'm doing online applications.
For a job. Central City East Association Executive Director Estela Lopez.
We take this very, very seriously. We have approximately 700 souls every single day that trust us with what matters most to them.
Lopez's staff knows firsthand the importance of treating its clients with dignity. In fact, all the warehouse workers used to live on the streets themselves.
To me, it's very rewarding, especially when somebody says, I got me a place, I got me a job, I don't need your services no more. That is the best right there.
The business community recognized a long time ago that to be in business in Skid Row meant you also needed to be part of the solution to what's happening down here.
That program has just been absolutely wonderful for our neighborhood. It helped us and it helped the people living on the streets. It gave them a place to put their belongings during the day where they didn't have to worry about it. It took that stuff off the streets. get our streets cleaner.
It's a great boost to have Estella and CCEA when you're fighting for your life on the streets of Skid Row.
There needs to be a service like this in every single community. There are homeless people in Long Beach. There are homeless people in the San Fernando Valley. There are homeless people in the Inland Empire. There's only one personal property possession warehouse, and that's here.
Having a place to come store my belongings while out there in the city trying to take care of personal business is very beneficial.
You cannot ask for more.
It's a blessing.
That's it. Very nice, just like the old days, right? That's funny. And there's a number of really wonderful people standing here with us today, and I'm going to start off with Estella Lopez, who's the Executive Director of the Central City East Business Improvement District.
Thank you. Councilwoman Perry and members of the City Council, thank you very much. This is an amazing day for us to be able to say to you that for 10 years, the business community, in partnership with Councilwoman Perry and also Councilman Huizar CD14, we have been able to provide for not the solution, obviously, to homelessness, but a peace. It has brought blessings to the people on Skid Row, and that hasn't been done solely by the power of just one entity. I have behind me the people who have made it possible for the folks on Skid Row to be able to store their possessions safely in a clean environment for the past 10 years, and I want to recognize them. First and foremost, the Central City East Association, the business community on Skid Row, who stood up 10 years ago and said, yes, we want to be part of the solution. Our chairman is here today, Larry Rausch. Larry? And unfortunately, one of the reasons why this is the only center of its kind anywhere in the country at the moment is because we have a donated 20,000 square foot warehouse. That would not be possible without Evoke Properties' continued donation of this incredible space. And the thanks and appreciation go to Martin Caverly, CEO of Evoke Properties. When we started the warehouse, we only had a capacity of 300 bins. Twice now we have been able to expand the capacity of the warehouse. As of Monday, we now serve 1,100 homeless clients on Skid Row. Thank you to the City of Los Angeles for that, and thank you to the LA Homeless Services Authority and their Executive Director, Michael Arnold. Thank you. The bins have been always provided to us free of cost. Every time we've needed them replaced, every time we've needed more, the phone call that we place is to a wonderful company that always says yes. And so I wanted to publicly thank and acknowledge Waste Management, and they are represented here today by Carolyn Anderson and Cheryl Lontman. Thank you, Waste Management. And Lily Lee, who is our photographer today. You heard in the video that the people who work at the center are all formerly homeless individuals. They are people who are putting their lives back together and working with people who come into the center, are able to speak to them, talk to them about their issues, understand their problems. That is made possible because we have a partnership, a very, very wonderful partnership with the Chrysalis organization, and representing Chrysalis here today are Mark Laranger, their president and CEO, and their vice president, Trevor Kale. Thank you, Chrysalis. And Councilwoman Perry, I invited one other person here today that I wanted to introduce you to. Peggy Washington is the lady you saw in the video. She manages the warehouse. Peggy came to us in 2006 through the Chrysalis program. Peggy is also a survivor of the streets. Peggy has worked her way through some very, very difficult times. She now works as the manager, the boss of the warehouse. But I need to tell you that she offers people on Skid Row more than a storage bin. She offers them hope because she is their role model. I don't know what we would do without Peggy. I don't know what Skid Row would do without Peggy. And so it's my honor to say thank you, Peggy, in front of this auspicious group, to say thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
No, wait a minute. Mr. Rosendahl is in the queue.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to do a shout out. Mike Arnold is working with us right now in our Venice issue. Estela Lopez, you've been a true leader. Jan Perry, you have done a fabulous job on this. It is a very tough issue for all of us. We in Venice know that. And this isn't the solution, but it's a step, and it's part of giving dignity to the homeless. Letting them put their stuff in certain places that it's supervised and isn't on the street and isn't causing issues for everybody else is a wonderful opportunity. Obviously, the services themselves downtown, in part, bring people to downtown. This is a national issue, we all know. And we know the real solution is permanent housing with supportive services for everyone, and that they should be taken in the status that they're in. Many of us know that homeless folks, some of them have drug and alcohol dependency and psychiatric issues. Maybe as much as 60 to 70% need that kind of help. And this is an incredible step. Ms. Perry and I were in New York a few years back, and we saw what the bid did around 42nd Street. It actually not only gave them a sense of dignity and put some of them to work and got them engaged, but we're able, because New York is a unique place, to find places where permanent housing with supportive services could be put together. The state of New York, better than the state of California, I might add, put $3 billion into play to work on those issues. So I look forward to the day when this step continues, and in my district as well, that we create more permanent housing or more transitional housing, and of course provide the services that are absolutely critical to help these people help themselves go forward. But this is an incredible plus, and I'm grateful to everyone standing with you, Jan Perry, and I'm grateful for your leadership in all of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we're going to all go in the back. Get your stuff and we'll go in the back and take pictures. Okay? Yeah, we're going to go in the back. Okay, Michael, will you lead everybody into the back? Okay, Paul and Michael, okay, in the back. Did we lose two people? You two of your people. Okay. Okay, so lead everybody into the back.
Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, sir.
It's my understanding that Mr. Englander has to leave early. So what I want to do at this time, I want to, and I want to make sure, in fact, we'll wait for Miss Perry. No, Miss Perry's still in the room. What we want to do now is we want to take up item 9, again, because Mr. Englander has to leave early and go give a speech. So I know Mr. Parks and Ms. Perry has some concerns where it relates to this issue. And I believe it was Mr. Parks that held this
Yes, sir. That was item number 9, called special for Councilmember
Okay, Mr.
Parks.
Englander, you're on the queue first, however.
Okay.
Go back and do your photos.
Colleagues, this is first on redistricting. I don't think we have to spend a lot of time explaining what it is. We've been through so much on this, and I really wanted to take a minute to thank all the commissioners and all the folks that have been involved in this. And looking back, we had well over 30 meetings, public meetings throughout the entire city of Los Angeles. These often went on all night long, and there was a lot of public comment and input from so many different communities. Again, well over 30 of these. When I first approached my commissioner and asked him if he would step up and volunteer his time, I told him it might be about 5 total commission meetings. I wasn't sure at the time. Well over 30 commission meetings that he attended. After that, we had our council president, who's the chairman of the Rules Committee, not only took the Rules Committee with the 3 members, but expanded it to include 2 additional members. So we would include all areas of the city, including all the way down to San Pedro and the San Fernando Valley. I was fortunate or less fortunate, whichever, depending on your perspective, chosen to sit on that as well, and sat through, I think we had 6 committee meetings on that, and at every one of those we also opened up public comment. So in addition to the well over 30 commission meetings with public comment, we had the committee meetings that had public comment. And in fact, I remember at the second committee meeting, the council president, I asked Mr. Wesson, I thought we had public comment at the last meeting. Doesn't that satisfy public comment already, since we're just going ahead and having another meeting and continuing it? And his answer was, yes, it does. But I think it's right that we have people come and participate and fill out speaker cards at every single one of these. So we had well over 40, if you add everything together, public comment and opportunities for folks to weigh in. And I just want to really applaud all of that, not only that opportunity and dialogue, but all the people that did participate and did show up and did come and spend all those hours engaging and affecting that change. So I want to compliment you on that and all the other members of the committee. I think we've certainly more than satisfied public comment. I'd like to see any additional questions or debate from my colleagues, but put this to rest here and now, and so we can move on and start working. In fact, tomorrow I have, pending the outcome of this vote, a tour that I'm taking with my staff. We rented a bus, and we're going to be going on a West Hills tour, although I know every single street. On the tour, I just have to let you know, one of the items we're going to go look at, because that'll be a new part of my district, is Mr. Zine's house. So we're going to stop at Mr. Zine's house for lunch, since I'll now be representing him July 1st, and go take a look at how to make sure we trim his trees and pave his street as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you for looking after Mr. Zine. Miss, Lord knows he needs the help. Miss Perry.
I ask that you allow the folks who've submitted speaker cards here today to please have the opportunity to come up and make their views known, even if you just give them 1 minute each. I hope that you will allow them that opportunity in spite of everything. They are still here to lodge their concerns, and I will again lodge mine, that this process does not reflect public input as the charter requires, and the maps continue to divide instead of build bridges for communities that work. And I know you have the votes, and this map is before us, but it's not required that you adopt it, and there have been objections lodged from a variety of communities. The only answer that we have heard over and over again is that this is we have the votes, this is what we're going to do, and no concern for the voters or to good sense. Now, I predict that the vote today is not the end but the beginning. I think this is probably one of the more egregious examples of the politics of I want, and that should not drive redistricting. Each vote for this map and the deals that were made to get this vote should be examined at some point, and everybody has to stand and answer for what they did. But I think that as a professional courtesy, as a courtesy to the number of community members who are here today in the audience, I certainly hope that you will allow them the opportunity to put their views on the record one more time. Thank you.
Okay, I know you had some questions for various staff. I would suggest that you go into that. We have met the requirement where it relates to public comment, and it is my decision. I do not intend to open this thing up again. So the staff questions that you have, you need to call them forward and ask your questions.
Well, I would like to put this question as to whether or not people should be allowed to speak. I'd like to make a motion to allow the people who are here today to have 1 minute each to speak.
Okay, so I'm assuming Mr. Parks will second that motion. Okay, Mr. Members, Ms. Perry will be asking for a aye vote, and I'm asking for a no vote. Mr. Englander.
I just have a, I believe it's a 2/3 vote to overrule that, but I just have a technical question on the legality of that, or the council rules on that. My understanding was it's not a matter of opening public comment to a vote of the council. It's still a discretionary call by the council president, and so if we can get clarification on that. And it's not so much to not hear or hear public comment, it's just to ensure that we're following the rules.
Mr. City Attorney?
Because I don't believe there's
Yes,
a vote.
I think the references to Rule 15, the presiding officer will decide all questions of order. The decision of the chair shall prevail unless reversed by a vote of at least 8 votes on the question, shall the chair be overruled.
So it's not a vote of opening or not opening public comment, it's only a vote of overruling the council president in any decision. And so it's just taking authority away from the council president as I understand the vote.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'm more than happy to change the language of my motion, and no disrespect meant to you. This is only intended to give the individuals who are here, and I see 2 rows of people, to give them one last opportunity to make
What is your motion?
So, wait, let me just finish my sentence, please. One last opportunity to comment on a decision that will stand for them for the next 10 years. So I will revise my motion or withdraw the one I made and replace it with the following motion that I would ask my colleagues to overrule the discretionary decision of the council president in disallowing members of the public here the opportunity to comment 1 minute at a time and provide them with the opportunity to comment today 1 minute per person.
So, Mr. City Attorney, I would be asking the members for a no vote on this, correct?
If that's your preference, although Rule 15 does also say the appeal shall be decided without debate. So the motion has been made. I believe there's a second. I'm not sure. And then it should be put to the members to vote whether to overrule the chair.
Okay, so Ms. Perry's asking for an aye vote. I'm asking for a no vote. Let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
3 ayes, 12 noes.
Okay, now if there are... What was that, Mr. Cardenas? He can change it later. So at this point in time, if we could have the staff, the redistricting staff, come forward. Okay, Mr. Parks, you're on the queue, followed by Ms. Perry.
Thank you. Terry, I'd just like to know on the sense, I think March 16th is when the maps were originally approved, and through the committee and then the council, there are a number of changes. And do you have a record of what the public comment were on those amendments, or whether the public had any input as to the last amendments of the committee and the council?
We have not summarized the public comment. I mean, they're obviously part of the council record, but we did not separately summarize the public comment on the March 16th actions.
Okay, but you were present at the committee. Was the public comment on those specific changes?
Yes.
Okay, as far as the committee and the council?
Yes.
Okay, so the record would reflect that?
Yes.
Okay. Colleagues, I would just like to say that although there are many people who will talk about the number of meetings, I think the people here that you're denying access will verify that they were not listened to. So it's a difference of the number of meetings versus what was done from the first drawing of the maps that did not represent the public comment of 15 meetings and going on. Those maps never changed. They just got worse. And so I think all you're doing is adding to what will be potential litigation by denying people one more opportunity to voice their concerns. And I'd just like to say to the public that's here, I appreciate personally your stamina in staying with this, and I want to apologize to you for you not being heard and taking your time. but I hope you let your constituents know how you were treated today and also in the past as it relates to this council, how you as residents of this city were denied access and your congregations and your members have been disenfranchised. And if you are as serious as you've told us as to litigation in the future, I would hope that as you see these votes today, that when you get these people before depositions and where they must talk in light of perjury, that you will then get your just cause as to this issue, because you're fighting a just cause. You're fighting for the people that you represent. And unfortunately, those who are voting have turned their back and ignored your particular concerns. And so stay with it. You certainly are fighting a just cause.
Ms. Perry.
I want to say thank you to all of the individuals who showed up here today. As you know, from the very beginning, this was an uphill battle, and little did we know that it would turn out the way that it did, with the 9th District being severed from its economic engine of 40 years, rendering the residents who now are south of Staples, south of Olympic, to having an annual income of $16,000 a year is the median income. And what was once a diverse, growing, and expanding district, finally enjoying the revitalization that it had been denied for many, many decades, is now flatlined and faces even more serious challenges as it began a steady climb towards recovery. But I want to thank all of you for your devotion. What this has done is created new relationships, new bonds between African Americans, Korean Americans, Japanese Americans, and Latinos, people who have been similarly disenfranchised and disaffected in their respective communities. What makes me most sad is if I had known up front that seats were being drawn to benefit other folks so that they could run for council seats in the next go-around. Maybe I would have tried a different strategy. As we went through the redistricting hearings with the commissioners, I would often turn to Mr. Parks and say, I don't understand why commissioners, 2 folks in particular, were fighting so hard to oppose our effort to take a census tract between Vernon, Vermont, Normandy, and Slauson and move it into the 8th District. And it would have made everyone's life a lot easier with a minimal amount of disruption. But they fought us, and they fought us, and they fought us. And it looks to me now, at the end of the day, now that people have filed to run for office, that it was all about creating opportunity for the next round of people who are running for public office. And it was never about any of you. It was never about your economic future or the future of your communities. It was always about a personal or a political agenda. But I urge you to continue to fight. And I stand very proud today to make the public record, not only on my behalf, but on your behalf too, and on behalf of all of the people that we all fight for each and every day. And I thank you for your help. And with that, Mr. President, please let the staff person fire away.
Well, Mr. Parks is on the queue now. Mr. Parks.
No, I would just like to, again, what do they call it, the meat and bounds report? We had it analyzed, and it showed that there were several issues, primarily in the Valley and primarily in the 10th District, that did not match the maps. Did you identify the same concerns?
The meets and bounds that were generated match, to the best of our ability, the map that was adopted on the 16th, March 16th. There's a number of places where census geography is not specific, and so part of the work that was done with the engineers was to make sure that each assessor's parcel was uniquely in one council district. And so in some places the line that appears on the map is somewhat different than was there in those original maps, but in terms of all of the population, all of the housing, everything is where it was, in that the lines are just clarified somewhat in areas where the census geography was not specific, or where the map that was adopted specified including parcels on one side of the street or another. The meets and bounds clarified exactly which those parcels were and which district they were in.
Okay, now, I think this question was asked by Ms. Perry at the last time this came before council. Whose judgments were used to make those decisions as to the maps and the lines and what side the street, and who participated in those decisions?
It was the city engineer, city attorney in my office.
Okay, so the issue is that those decisions that you were making discretionary judgments about those particular lines, those have not been presented to the community or any community input. These were all internal staff.
I don't think that there was anything particularly where there was that much discretion involved. There was a few places in completely rural areas where there could have been a question as to which parcel line it would follow, but those are areas that are, public lands that are not developable and not developed. Other than that, everything was, I think, was specified clearly in what was adopted on March 16th, and then once we had finished the process, I identified a half dozen issues that I thought, with a really strict interpretation, could be questionable, and ran those by a representative from Councilman Wesson's office to make sure that they agreed with our interpretation, that that they didn't think that there was any problems that needed to be addressed.
Okay. But the succinct answer is it was all done internal and by staff.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Buscaino.
Call the question, please.
Okay, there are no other speakers on the queue. Ms. Perry? The question's been called, so we have to take a vote. Is that right, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, unless it's been withdrawn or unless there's an objection to calling the question, and then there'll be a vote on whether to call the question.
Ms. Perry has an objection.
So then it's 10 votes required.
10 votes required?
To stop debate.
To stop debate. Okay, so let's open the roll. Yes to stop, no to continue. So let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes, 2 noes.
Okay, now it's the vote on the item is before us. This open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes, 2 noes.
Forthwith, Mr. Cardenas.
Yes, there was a no vote registered for me on a previous vote, and I'd like to. It was a yes vote? It was a yes vote. Thank you. I'd like to correct that vote. Thank you.
Okay, that's been corrected. Okay, that brings us now to general public comment.
Mr. President, before doing so, there have been requests to send items 11 and 30 forthwith as well.
Without objection. Marie Parrish, Leonard Delpit, Grace Yu, please come forward. This is on general public comment. Mr. Reyes.
Pardon? Did you call your name?
I was the first one he said.
Okay, then you're welcome to speak.
Yes. I start speaking now? Okay. Honorable Councilman, I'm Marie Parrish. I have been a San Fernando Valley resident for the last 63 years. I am here to request a closing, pardon me, closing a discriminatory section of the laws dealing with cats. I'm allergic to cats to the possible point of death. I spent a few hours at the East Valley Animal Shelter observing the parade of residents bringing in cats. This requires man-hours that you gentlemen can eliminate and also accommodate citizens with cat allergies. Change the law to require cats to be quartered on owners' properties and not be allowed to run free. Require cats to be on lease when not on owners' property. I've seen this done in Sweden, and they have a special harness just for walking cats. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Our next speaker, please, is your name and address.
What did he say?
Next speaker, please.
Good morning. In God we trust. My name is Leonard Delpit. I'm a former board secretary to my neighborhood council, the Empowerment Congress Central Area Neighborhood Development Council. And I'm here today as a resident of the 8th District. And I think that this city council board should really reconsider the decisions that you guys made about taking out valuable assets in the 8th District. I think that you guys made a bad mistake, and in the end,
Sir, we have to comment on items that are not on the agenda.
And I believe that the city council president was behind it, and I think that the mayor should take a leadership.
Sir, I need to stop you because general comment is on items not on the agenda. Thank you very much. Please cut off his microphone. Okay. Now the next speaker, please. Again, you're still speaking on items that is not your. Thank you. That was item 9. Right. Okay. So again, we cannot speak on item 9. This is general public comment. Thank you.
Good morning, council members. My name is Grace Yu. I'm the executive director of the Korean American Coalition. I was sitting in here, and from rows 4, 5, 6, and 7 were 24 citizens from various parts of our beloved city, from Watts to South Central to Little Tokyo and Koreatown. And these folks have all just gone over to the mayor's office to continue demanding a visit with the mayor about the lack of transparency and following rules and procedure that will cost the city hundreds of thousands of dollars. Last week, this city council approved close to $300,000 for attorney's fees. But don't kid yourselves, that is not the ceiling, but just the floor. You know we have great firms representing us pro bono who took this on because it was the righteous cause. And I would hope that you would do more than just rubber stamp each other's work, trusting that the person who told you what you believe to be true is the truth. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. And you choose to ignore and you continue to make a mockery of democracy. And I think that's a shame in this lovely City Hall council chambers. It may seem like we really are the David against Goliath, but we all know the story. The ultimate winner is David. And we may be small, but we're not sitting, watching you, thinking, oh no, we can't do anything. We know we've got the law on our side, and we will continue to fight for justice. And if it means taking it to the courts, we are, and we will.
Thank you, Ms. Yu. Our next speaker, Danielle Garcia, Brandon Garcia, and Lucy Caruso. Please come on up. If I called your name, please come on up. Daniel Garcia, Brandon Garcia, and Lucy Caruso. Danielle? Hi. Can someone bring the microphone down for him, please?
This is my son, Ben Garcia, so he will be picking
Okay.
Hi, my name is Brandon Garcia.
want
I want
accessible
parks,
accessible
housings, accessible libraries
for
people with disabilities. Because mommy and daddy want
other people
to enjoy the freedom
and the quality of life.
Thank you very much for listening
to me.
Thank you, Danielle. Very good job. Very well done. So that was Brandon, right? Good job, Brandon.
City Council showing my son. This is my son speaking himself, and I'm very proud to be here with my son. Teaching him the education that everybody should be learning. Teaching him how to be a democratic nation. Teaching him how she got a choice to do the thing right. Teaching the moral value of this city council. And I'm very proud that I have a son that wants to help people with disability. And I'm very proud that my son wants to come here with me. It's a pleasure to have my son here and sharing life with you. I myself want to say that it's more enjoyment having kids here and learning how to and teach them how to be proactive in democratic government. I want to say that if anybody in the city council will bring a child and teach him how to speak in the public forum, like I'm doing, everybody will be a more powerful nation. So therefore, I thank you very much, and I thank you to bring a child and having a speak here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Lucy Caruso. After Lucy Caruso, we'll have Henry Marine. And then we'll have Daniel Sosa. Please come on up to the microphone.
Hi, can you hear me? I don't know
Yes.
if this thing, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I wanted to bring up something. I bring it up a lot. So I want to make it a humanization on it. And this, again, it says same-sex marriage. But I think it should be more on human relations. Before my mom used to always tell me, as long as I'm around, you'll be okay. But when I'm gone, I'm worried about you. And you see my life as it is right now. And I think that I don't think sex is ambiguous. That if I was married, would I be living like I am now? No. So I want to focus more on that, okay? But I want to write it down more clearly. But I'm not, it's presented like a proposition. And I think that's where the wording's wrong. And when I first came here, or the second time, I said, I'm recycling, but I didn't want to do anything that was like immoral or illegal. So if a car pulls up to me, that's like propositioning me. And I don't think the court can go I don't think it should have been a marriage. I'm straight, but I don't think I should be, if I wasn't, be presented as a proposition on a premise. Okay, I'll talk more about it later. I'll clear it up a little bit more, okay?
Thank you, ma'am. Henry Marine, Daniel Sosa, and Christian Finley.
Yes, as you know, yesterday was the reminder of Juneteenth, where the politicians in Texas agreed to hide the freedom of black people, right? And here in item 5 yesterday, that you established intent, the Budget Committee established intent to misrepresent to the mayor, the CEO, and everybody else that employees in MOU 35 positions are hiring hall employees, and to continue to skim 10% from prevailing wage positions and kick back money to unions for the benefit of city employees, which you failed to require them to roll over to lacers or PERS in the past. You're perpetuating a fraud. It's called civil conspiracy. If you continue to do it unless you establish some change, and I'm going to be 66 in September. My wife's going to be 66 in September, and I can't plan my future because you got my money commingled, city funds and union funds in the same pension plan. I can't separate them. I can't separate the hours of service to contractors and the hours of service to the city of LA and the housing authority. So I'm going to have to go to the Department of Labor and get this squared away, and then, you know, you're going to be responsible for it. Now, you could establish intent to resolve this problem by addressing a problem that you know exists. Or you can just act like the people in Bell, forget it doesn't exist. But, you know, the sheriff is hired in the LAPD in this county, in this state. So, all you good cops, you get to ride the sheriff's car.
Okay, Daniel Sosa, Christian Finley, and Charles, you've been here before. I had difficulty with your last name the last time, so I'm going to ask you to come forward. You'll speak after Christian, and please state your last name a couple of times. Mr. Sosa.
Hi, my name is Daniel Sosa. I'm here to urge you to vote no and to not vote on any ban. Any ban would be another bad law. If you vote for a limited immunity ban, it will be the same thing all over again. You will get sued. Collectives will stay open. History will repeat itself, and you will have another failed policy. On Friday, there will be people here urging you to support a limited immunity ban. They support it because they are associated with collectives who think they will get this limited immunity. But please do not be fooled. Allowing 100 and banning the other 700 or 1,000 or however many there are does not make sense. It doesn't make sense because it won't work. The reason you don't see hundreds of operators and this place isn't full of patients is because they don't take you guys seriously. They know that if a ban passes, they'll just stay open. And most of them will probably sue you. Please, I urge you, consult your city attorney or consult outside counsel about the PAC decision, about the Colvin decision. Please be responsible, do the research, and uphold your duty to the people before you vote on these issues. Take it off the agenda. Table it. But if it makes it on the agenda, please, I urge you, vote no for a limited immunity ban. Vote no for any ban. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi. My name is Kristen Finley, and I graduated magna cum laude from USC with a business degree. My life upon graduation was pretty normal. I got a job at a CPA firm amending and restating retirement plans. I got health insurance and a 401k plan. However, while I was working there, my irritable bowel syndrome took a turn for the worse, and I dropped from 110 pounds down to 80 pounds. My doctors tried everything and nothing worked. They gave me medicine they give chemo patients for nausea, and I couldn't keep food down. I was placed on temporary disability from work due to my health. Because of this, the company I worked for fired me. I lost my health insurance. I turned to holistic medicine for help because I had no other option. I turned to medical marijuana, and it worked. I finally got my life back. I could eat again. If you do this ban, I will have no safe access for my meds, and I cannot grow at home. I'm just one of 400,000 patients in Los Angeles alone that need these meds. Please don't strip my life away from me and my rights away from me. Please don't let your personal or your political agenda hinder my health. Please either table or vote no on the ban on medical marijuana dispensaries. Thank you.
All right, and I'm paying very close attention to
morning.
this last name.
So you'd pronounce, split it at the H as Kirchheimer. Heimer.
Kirchheimer.
Yes, it means
Charles Kirchheimer.
It means home of church.
Okay. Kirchheimer. All right, I'll give you your extra seconds left since you educated me on how to pronounce
thank
your
you so
last
much.
name. Go on, Charles.
Well, good afternoon, Council. My name is Charles Kirchheimer. I've been coming before you for the past year and a half. And every time I come, it's always great to have your undivided attention. I noticed that we have some new faces. Some had to step out a little bit, as very understandable. And it's always, every time I come, it's always noticeable how these decisions are made by the few, not really by the many. The state of California voiced its opinion in 1996, and then further allowing clarification towards dispensaries with SB 420. One of the issues that's very important to me is MMJ, and this is one of the last times I'll be able to speak to you before you guys are able to vote on this. And I urge you to vote no on any ban, whether it limits, whether it provides more access, vote no on any ban. We're always happy to help. You take care, okay?
Mr. Weezar. You're okay?
Yeah, I'm passing.
All right. Tanisha Thompson, Deborah Shin, and last name I think is Conti. First name begins with a D. Tanisha.
Hi. My name is Tanisha Thompson. I am here in reflection of thousands of medical marijuana patients that were unable to be here today. And I urge you to oppose the ban on collectives. Allowing this ban would be futile, and it would be hurting thousands of patients in California. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but alcohol kills 100,000 people in the United States. Unfortunately, another substance, nicotine, kills over 400,000 people in the United States a year. And unfortunately, 50,000 of those people die from secondhand smoke. These are issues that we need to be fighting. Do you know how many people that medical cannabis has killed? 0. Medical cannabis is many people's alternative to synthetic, toxic, addictive prescription pills that ultimately make them sicker. The government is supposed to be for the people and by the people. We are the people. We have spoken. Please do not put politics before the people. Oppose any bans. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Ms. Shin, Deborah Shin, and do we have the Conti? Okay. Yes.
Hi, my name is Deborah Shin, and I'm a resident of LA, and I'm here to remind you guys why you guys are all here, and it's to represent the people's voice. And I would like to voice my opinion, and I would like you guys all to oppose the ban, any ban on medical collectives. Patients need safe and legal access to their marijuana medicinal marijuana. And if you do this ban, then you'll be taking away from thousands of patients in LA. And so please vote no or oppose the ban on any medical.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Following Ms. Conti will be Megan Ryan. Megan, if you're here, please come. And then we'll go to the Valley for Marianne Fogler. Yes, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Council. Thank you. Dejay Kuti, Central Hollywood. I wanted to speak with you today about solutions. I want you to know that I understand this Council's frustration with having to deal with the medical cannabis issue. I understand the frustration of communities who don't understand legally why dispensaries keep opening up. I deal with the frustration of patients who don't understand why we don't have workable regulations as they do in other larger cities. But I want to let you know that any type of ban is not a solution. It's not going to end the lawsuits. It is only going to create more lawsuits. And medical cannabis dispensing is not going to end in the city of Los Angeles if you pass any type of ban. So I wanted to speak with you again about solutions. I'm hoping that you are looking for opportunities to do the right thing and stray away from a ban and pass regulations. And I would like to present the Council now with a draft resolution by the people for your serious consideration. And again, ask you to stay away from passing any ban and to please pass workable regulations and consider passing a resolution as such. Thank you.
Thank you. If you please give your documents to the sergeants. Before we go to Ms. Ryan, Mr. Rosendahl, you wanted to quickly say something?
If I could, and the city attorney is giving me the eyes over there, Kamala Harris, our attorney general, I was with her last night, and she very clearly talked about this issue and frankly said that the state is working on various implementation legislation.
Ms. Rosen is not on the agenda today.
Well, I happen to agree with those folks out there. That's what I want to know.
Okay, guys, let's keep it down. We have other people that are here to speak, and I want to make sure each and every one of you receive that opportunity. Ms. Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Bill, for your support. It really means a lot to us. Thank you guys all for being here. Koretz, we're all up here talking to you. You're back there being a chatty Cathy. Thank you. I'm here to oppose any ban. I oppose any ban. Thank you. Nice to have your eyes. Thank you. I oppose any ban in the city of Los Angeles. I strongly oppose any ban in the city of Los Angeles. You know you're going to get sued. You know this city, which is already in a financial crisis, is going to get sued. You're going to get mired in lawsuits, and you guys all know. You're aware and you don't care. You're going to do it anyway. Is that following the will of the people? Is it? You're going to waste taxpayers' dollars on these lawsuits? You already did this in 2010. You're going to do it again? Really? You guys think this is a good idea? You want to look at workable regulations? I know you haven't looked at San Francisco. I know you haven't looked at West Hollywood. I called your offices. You want to look at some workable regulations? Look at them. See what they're doing. See what the patients are coming up with. We're here as a community to work with you guys. We're here saying, regulate us. Don't ban us. We're here right in front of you. And you want to ban us out of existence. You want to ban people who need medical cannabis, people who don't want to get sick, people who don't want to destroy their livers from taking Tylenol. You want to take this away, and you want to mire the city in lawsuits once again. Have fun. I love coming up here and talking to you guys every day. My generation has not entered politics yet, and when we do, it's going to be a great day for all of us. Time is on our side. Have a great day, gentlemen.
Okay, now let's keep it down. If we could now go to the Valley for Marianne Fogler. Marianne Fogler in the Valley.
I wish I can say I support your regulation for marijuana,
but they're shutting us down here at the Valley, the San Fernando Valley. We have people down here, came down here for the marijuana people, and we're going to be shut down here, folks, for $45,000 because they got the lawyers and they want to spend the money to fight the people, so we have to take them down. We have to do masses, and we have to take the government back, take it down like the Tower of Babel, like the four revolutions in France, because that seems to be the only thing we have now, because they control the money. This is their government. It doesn't belong to us. We're serving you, your majesties, your lordships. I bow down to you since you're gods, okay? I'm pleading with you in the name of God, if you have a God, or I guess you're atheist, I'm begging you, lordships.
Ms. Fogler, please be careful.
Well, how am I going to get down to your place? Okay? How am I going to get down to your place? Mr. Daniel Garcia, you want accessibility for disabled people. How in the world are you talking about that when they're closing this down here at the San Fernando Valley for disabled people? Accessibility, baloney, because all they want to do is say it's easier because we live in the valley. But you live down there. It's easier for you. That's right, Mr. Koretz. You're not a God-loving man. You never were. And I'll tell you something. Vote no for Cardenas for Congress. Vote for David Hernandez. You are all shutting us down, and you don't care about the.
Thank you, Ms. Fogler. Thank you. Okay, I believe I met this gentleman yesterday. John Brown for mayor. Michael Hahn. Vanina Lopez. Welcome back, Mr. Brown.
Thank you very much. I'm Mr. Brown. Just a few years ago, I had no T cells, 9 million viral load. I was dying. I had no weight on me, wasting. You wouldn't know me if I showed you a picture. I sound a little strange today because I'm getting new teeth. I can't believe my insurance paid for it. But my doctor took out a prescription pad years ago, and he did it just a month ago again, and said, John has AIDS and may benefit from the use of medical marijuana. He was just so right. Look at me now. I was in a wheelchair, then I was in crutches. The people at the collectives have always given me free weed because my income is $50 a month in a rest home. These people are saints. It's incredible. Now, I think the city attorney could write a few rules or whatever, but I have 4 places I can go walking distance from my house and get marijuana free. I can go 7 places and pay for alcohol. I'd like you to put a ban on some of the alcohol places because I see them dying in the rest home from alcohol and tobacco and sugar. Hello? Where's that guy? I don't know what to tell you. I want to change your mind. I'm an old veteran. I knew about marijuana a long time ago, but I drank enough to float a submarine. My doctor told me it was good for me. I tried it, and by God, it was. It saved my life, guys. It saved my life. Thank you.
Identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is Vanya Lopez. I'm 24, and I've been a resident in Los Angeles all my life. I would like to read a quote by Abraham Lincoln. Prohibition goes beyond the bounds of reason in that it attempts to control a man's appetite by legislation and makes crimes out of things that are not crimes. A prohibition law strikes a blow at the very principles upon which our government was founded.
Just take your time, relax. It's okay.
I am a volunteer and patient at a medical marijuana dispensary, and I am here to strongly urge you to oppose against the ban on medical marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Michael?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, distinguished members of the council. I'm here today to ask you to oppose any ban on medical cannabis. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I didn't do any of that before my doctor told me I had end-stage renal disease. And if I didn't have dialysis 3 days a week, I couldn't stand here and ask you to oppose anything. In fact, I probably couldn't stand up at all. In fact, this weekend I couldn't get out of bed after dialysis because I had a little bit too much fluid removed and I was at a lower weight than I'd ever been. And the second I took my blood pressure medication, it made me vomit everything that was in my stomach, which wasn't anything but what little fluid I had left and some stomach bile. And that continued all weekend long for about 40 hours until I had some medical cannabis. And then I didn't feel like I wanted to throw up anymore. And I sat up and I made myself something to eat. And I washed my own dishes. And I went to work. And if I didn't have medical cannabis, I couldn't do any of those things. And there's thousands of people like me who couldn't do any of those things, who couldn't just be productive members of society because the other medications they took made them worse. So take it from just me, the person you live next to, someone you love who can't get out of bed. But because they have medical cannabis, they get to stand before you and tell you, you know what, today looks bright, and I can't wait till tomorrow comes.
Thank you, Mr. Hahn. Kobe Lopez, Nick Simpson, Dennis Douglas. If you guys could still line up. I want to see the other two names that I called. Kobe?
Yes, sir. Hello, everybody. I'm just here in support of a ban on any type of collective dealing with medical marijuana. A lot of you have this idea stuck in your head. You see TV clinics getting broken into, robbed. You picture gangbangers with guns, and you just think marijuana, gangbanger, guns. It's not like that. I'm just turned 37. I'm a father of 5 daughters, been married 18 years. Did 8 years in the United States Army. Backed up this country, gave it all I had. I'm sick as hell now. I have seizures in the hospital, 911, 3-4 times a month, sometimes more, 2 times a day. Recently, my wife, I remember, she pushed me out of the hospital in the wheelchair after a 5-hour, 6-hour visit. Don't even remember getting home. That was the Pomona Hospital. Woke up in the Montclair Hospital. I don't know if anybody of you will ever experience that, but get pushed in a wheelchair from one hospital, wake up in another one. Don't see your family. You don't know if they're dead, what? I've been on over 420, 515 pills a month. Pain pills, Vicodin, stuff I don't even know what's in it. Made me sick. I got down to 127 pounds. I was on Ensure Plus for 9 months. Couldn't gain no weight. Started smoking medical marijuana. I'm gaining my weight back. I'm here in support of the band. I just want you guys to know it's not all about homeless gangs. I don't want to stereotype anybody. I don't want to discriminate against anybody. But I'm a veteran. 8 years of my life for this country. Take a little bit of time, look at the facts, look at the people that really need this. And if you want to do anything, crack down on the bullshit, excuse my language, doctors that will take a California ID and some American money and give you a script. You really want to make a change? Go after the doctors. Leave the sick people alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Nick Simpson, and where's Douglas? Okay, so Nick Simpson and Dennis Douglas. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name's Nick Simpson. I'm here to oppose the ban. I don't understand how we as Californians can go out there and vote for something to pass a law, and then you guys are here stripping it away from us. We pay you guys as taxpayers. Yeah, so what's up with that? That's basically all I have to say. So see how long you guys are here and see how long we're here. Goodbye.
Thank you. Dennis Douglas, followed by Arnold Sachs. So Arnold, if you could start making your way to the center aisle, and then Cesar Perez. Yes, sir.
Hello, everybody at the panel and everything. Thank you for allowing me the chance to speak. I just wanted to say I oppose any ban going on against medical marijuana. I don't see why we put so much energy in trying to ban something that I don't see there's a negative effect on our community or anything like that. So many other things that you guys could be putting your money to and trying to stop. And it seems like you guys go out your way sometimes to go for medical marijuana. It just doesn't make any sense. After all the clinics, and they do a lot of good that I think you guys aren't paying attention to, or you got certain perceptions to what they're using to be able to help certain people with medical conditions. I think you guys need to take a better look and get better research on what you're trying to understand and ban. I don't think you guys have a good perception of what you guys are trying to stop. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Mr. Sachs, followed by Cesar Perez.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. Very interesting meeting so far today. And for the medical marijuana people, a learning opportunity. You might have been paying attention when the people were discussing the redistricting in the city, and the number of meetings that were held, and the council people that got up and talked, and the people in the room that wanted to have a hearing continued, and the input from the public, and the vote was 13-2 against it. This isn't time to ask them to act. This is time to start planning on how you're going to defend yourselves against their actions. They're going to do what they're going to do and lead from behind. You need to be planning on what your next step is going to be, not asking them for favors. People got up and asked favors about the redistricting. You see what happened to them. Or maybe you were here yesterday to hear them talk about the Hollywood city plan and how that was shot down by the public asking them to reconsider. When they want to do something, they do it because they're backed by people who have offices in the high towers, and those are mainly legal offices that represent the city in these cases on both sides of the courtroom. So plan your next step by not asking them for favors, but what you're going to do to fight their decision. That being said, congratulations to Mr. Englander and the City Council for upholding the rules, which you so famously want to break, especially when Ed Reyes, the Mr. Ruleman himself, who sat on the expo line before it even existed, on the Foothill extension, the goal line, before it even existed, before it was even state law, Ed Reyes was sitting on making decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs.
So much for rules.
Mr. Perez, please come forward, Mr. Perez.
Good morning. My name is Cesar Perez. I just want to say you guys are wrong by banning any collective or any organization that has to do with collective. You guys are hurting the people. And I just want you to know, you start by getting a doctor's rec, and you need a qualified doctor in order to get a rec. And if you're not qualified to be a patient, why would a doctor give you a recommendation? If anything, you guys should start by checking the doctors and the people who issue the licenses to open collective, because anybody here can open a collective and just have a collective. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, Mr. Clerk, let's move to where's Mr. Huizar? We're going to move to item 7, Mr. Huizar.
Are we on item 7, Mr. President?
We're on item 7.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Colleagues, this is an item to appoint a commissioner to the El Pueblo Commission, and comes to us with a lot of experience in knowing how the city functions and familiarity with El Pueblo, and just wanted to have him introduce himself to you. And Mr. Perez, we've done quite a bit at El Pueblo these last few years. We finally got the merchants license completed after 16 years or more of the city not having any leases with the merchants. We got the Methodist Church lease. We're moving forward with the renovations to the Italian Hall. We have the Siqueiros mural that we've, thankfully, to some money from the Getty Foundation, we're able to move forward with that. There's a lot of activity. But there's also a balance we all need to strike, which is to preserve the historical character of the area while allowing for more activity so that we make it a self-sufficient, economically self-sufficient agency for the city. That's one of the successes we've had these last few years, in that in the past it's dependent on the general fund for survival. Now it's self-sufficient, and we want to keep it that way by encouraging more tourist visitors, etc. So we look forward to working with you to continue on that momentum. But I thought I'd just have you introduce yourself to the council and the public as our new commissioner for El Pueblo.
Thank you, Mr. Huizar. Jesse Mares. I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. I spent some time in the city of Los Angeles, the Department of Water and Power. Pretty proud of the mayor appointing me to this commission. I look forward to serving the commission well. It's my small, I guess, commitment to play a small role in a historical location in Los Angeles, so I appreciate your support and guidance in my commission appointment.
Thank you very much. And we actually submitted 2 motions today to start working with you. One is to form to develop a strategic plan on how we're going to develop better marketing, better revenue opportunities, and other items. So I look forward to working with you on that strategic plan. And secondly, we are forming a working group to see how we could change some of the commercial and bus zones in the area so that we could encourage more tourists and make it easier and have more parking available for people who visit the area. So I look forward to working with you on those 2 items.
Likewise. Thank you.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Huizar, for that, too. I understand that we're getting to the point where off the general fund with El Pueblo, we're moving in that right direction. How's your sensing of all of that?
My sense? Well, you know, I'm going to get to know a lot about the Pueblo in the next few meetings. I attend my first one this next week, so I will probably come back and report to you a lot more.
Okay, because our goal obviously is to make it self-sustaining, make it work. It's a fabulous, obviously, it's the roots of LA. Let's face it, we wouldn't be LA if it wasn't for that. So I look forward to your leadership on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Labange.
And I appreciate we had a good discussion in a committee. You're a great graduate of Wilson High School, a good family man. I'd like to see a bike rental facility somewhere at the Pueblo. People will come into Union Station, walk across, see the monument, take off on a bike and explore downtown. Love to work with you, Mr. Huizar. Your great leadership on tourism downtown and the hop-on, hop-off buses. And also get Yang Chow to move next to the Chinese American Museum, and I'll be all right. Thank you. Good luck.
Okay, Mr. Reyes to close.
Thank you, Council President. First, I want to thank you for your time and your support for this great city. In the past few years, we've been looking at how we are able to leverage our properties, our assets, to create private-public partnerships. And right across the street, you have several tremendous magnets. You have Union Station on one side, and the other side you have these vast parking lots that sit basically as a one-purpose item, just for parking. We have all those air rights. You have the great church right next door, the museum that Gloria Molina's supervisor put together. And right down the street you have a great park, the Cornfield, a 40-acre park. And so now you have 2 and Elysian Park. Then you have Union Station, you have the Chinatown Light Rail. A conversation I had with Councilman Huizar a few years back was the concept of entering discussions with the county about a partnership. It can take different forms. Some use authorities, joint authorities with different governments that can sit as one entity to understand how we can build out this great location. You've got the falls from Fort Moore that right now sit dormant. So there's a lot of possibilities there. My sense of exasperation is that I have 1 year left. I respect the fact that that site is in District 14. My district is right across the street. So I would love to be able to see this area as a whole. a holistic approach with the motion that Councilman Huizar put in about the zoning and commercial areas. Look at this concept of an authority where we could leverage what could be built on that parking lot. My wishful thinking would be that the county and the city had this discussion with the support of the mayor, that we look at revenue generated from those parking lots, from our dead space in the city, and how we create revenue for maintaining Olvera Street. Help the various tenants to keep them there. Help them with rental issues, tenant cost issues, overhead issues, so we can preserve that historic feel while stimulating revenue with this potential. So that's a discussion I'd love to have with you and the body. With all respect, working with Councilman Huizar, given that's in his district, but looking at leveraging what we can do in District 1, looking at Fort Moore, which is in District 1, looking at Union Station. We should be looking at this as one holistic area, and that is my request to you. So I look forward to working with you. Being a alumni of Water and Power, I know that you understand bureaucracies, you know there's processes, but if we don't have stewards within this commission, getting to the next level will be very difficult. But I'm hoping with your energy we can get there. So thank you for your hard work. And any comments? I know I went over my time.
No, thank you. I look forward to working all those issues you mentioned. I'm pretty excited about actually implementing some of those things. And I see this site as an important piece of not just property, but history in Los Angeles. And I'd like to incorporate that whole area so that we could actually make it even better.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reyes. Members, it's time for us to vote on this issue. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, next, congratulations, sir. Next, we're going to move to item 20. Mr. Garcetti, is that you and Mr. Cardenas that want to... I think Mr. Huizar. So whoever wants to lead that off, would you please proceed? Sure. We're going to be having quorum issues shortly, members. We're going to be having quorum issues shortly. So we want to make sure we finish the business that we have at hand. So we'll start off with Mr. Garcetti and then Mr. Huizar.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And with redevelopment out of the picture, colleagues, we've lost a tool in our economic development toolkit. Unemployment still remains very high in the city, about 50% higher than in the country. And right now we have an opportunity, and more than that, a duty, to re-envision what the city's role in economic development can and will be. We need to continue to identify and to have some discipline on funding streams that were first intended for, or have come back from economic development, to make sure that we identify those future funding streams for places that still need assistance in bringing jobs, whether it's Northeast San Fernando Valley, whether it's South Los Angeles, whether it's the eastern parts of the city and central parts of this city that still have a staggering amounts of unemployment, not enough companies, not enough jobs, and a difficulty attracting capital. But we also need to keep in mind the talented individuals who were a part of the former CRA LA and see how we can use those talents in any revised entity on the affordable housing side, on our economic development side, and on some of our bonding capacity side. And economic development in Los Angeles, I think at this moment, never let a good crisis go to waste. It needs to be centralized. We need to have a strategy, and we need to make sure it's not just done on an ad hoc basis. That's how you get into trouble. That's how you have no kind of approach to looking at how our neighborhood should be developed. That's how we miss going after strategic industries, and it just is whoever shouts the loudest or whoever asks for the most. We need to leverage our proprietary departments, LAX, the Port, Department of Water and Power, to create good jobs and to grow our economy. But we also need to support small businesses and entrepreneurs. So I think the city has a few powers, and this report takes us forward and beginning to look at what is our new economic development strategy going to look like, and what sort of entity might we incarnate here. We have to act as a convener, bringing people together, get out of the way at other times so that businesses can do what they do well. We need to look at workforce development, and we need to look at a way in which we can have a nimble organization or structure inside the city to do what the CRA used to do, help build affordable housing, get homeless people off the street, provide for those who can reduce traffic by living close to where they work, but also making sure that the economic development aspects that are so critical to whether or not this city, which has 166,000 fewer jobs and 800,000 more people after the urban unrest after the riots 20 years ago. We need to do that, and we need to bring together all the stakeholders to drive forth a common goal. So what is before us today, colleagues, is something to move that forward. I'd like to move the Jobs Committee report, and also number 8. I'd like to add one element to that, to direct the Personnel Department to assist the CRA employees with finding jobs in any other city departments. These are good employees. I've met with them. They have skills that we can use. We can save money by not needing to train folks. And so I'd like to create a mechanism to track CRA employees after June 30th, their last day when they'll be working, and potentially match them with open city departments and housing, community development department, CAO's office, etc. So I'd like to move that, and I believe there's also a motion you introduced,
yes,
Mr. President, as well, that we will move to be attached as well to the jobs report. And instead of a 90-day report back, I believe that says 45 days. So if we can get it done quicker, that's great. But we can hear from the CLA whether that's possible. Of course, we want it to be a good report, not just a quick report. So take that time you need to with urgency, but also with good focus and good detail in there. And if you haven't read the CLA report, I know we have quorum issues, so I won't go on any longer, but it is good. It looks at some of the cities that have had successful models. We've been looking at those as well. New York Economic Development Corporation, Austin, other places, San Diego. There's been some faults in some of those places and some advantages. I think LA's structure will be unique, but let's start moving forward and let's put the money in place to continue the economic development and turnarounds of neighborhoods like downtown Hollywood and elsewhere that we've seen in the recent years. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Weezer, I'm going to let you speak, and let me make this announcement. Because of these other motions or amendments, Mr. Garcetti, there's some changes of significance, so I will reopen the hearing at a minute each. I've got some cards on it. Mr. Weezer, after you speak, then I'll have the public come up.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I think you're correct, Mr. Garcetti, that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And here, after the dissolution of the CRA, we not only saw the city suffer in terms of the project areas, but actually throughout the city, where we turned to the CRA for the technical expertise in moving development projects forward. And since we're no longer going to have that, it does give us an opportunity to think creatively about different possibilities in terms of what we had in the past. And what I like about this is the recommendation to look at a combination of a city nonprofit economic development agency, because when we have one of those, if you've seen in other cities, they not only are moving projects that come to us who would like to be developed, but they're actually doing the research. They're thinking strategically about emerging industries and where the city should look at. What is the available land to attract those industries? What types of lists of incentives we could ask, we could let the industry know that is available in Los Angeles. So this gives us a great opportunity to not only think about in terms of the great job the CRA was doing in providing the technical expertise, whether you had a project area or not, but it gives an opportunity to be a lot more creative about providing good economic development service in the city of LA. So I just want to commend everybody who's worked on this. I think this is a great way to move forward, and we got to move on this quickly, folks. We will be missing opportunities in terms of having available assistance to people who want to invest in the city of LA.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Buscaino, you're up next, and then I'm going to have the public. And remember, we still have to get to your item.
Yes, sir. If I can have Mr. Miller come to the table.
In fact, let's do this.
You want to do public comment first?
I'll take the
That's
public,
fine.
yeah.
Sure.
Anne Marquis or Marquette, Daniel Garcia, Rosalind Wang, please come forward. Arnold Sachs. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Sure. Good morning. I'm Annie Marquardt with Public Counsel Law Center. Public Counsel is a not-for-profit law firm providing free legal services to people struggling with poverty in Los Angeles and to the community-based organizations that serve low-income communities. This is an exciting time to imagine the future of economic development in our city. In the wake of the dissolution of the former CRA-LA, which was focused on investing and strengthening low-income communities, I'm here to urge you that the economic development entity being considered today be similarly focused. Public Counsel, along with Corporation for Supportive Housing and 6 community developers, have submitted to you principles that should govern the creation of the new economic development model. They are investment in economically disadvantaged communities, creating a system of community accountability like the CACs and PACs of the former CRA, creating middle-class jobs by retaining the CRA-LA construction careers policy, requiring a nonprofit partner in every project of the new entity, and involving neighborhood-based developers and nonprofits in shaping the goals, policies, and structures of the new entity. Thank you.
Thank you. Rosalind Wang. I do not see Arnold Sachs or Daniel Garcia. After Ms. Wang, it's a Mark Glasak. Mark, are you here? If so, please come forward. Yes.
All right. Good morning, members of the City Council. Rosa Wong testifying on behalf of the NRDC. The NRDC is concerned with the creation of the Economic Development Department as a replacement for the Community Redevelopment Agency. When it comes to this kind of development, it is not just about the economics. The city must ensure that there are proper incentives to attract good projects that create sustainable development and prioritize open and green space. Further, safeguards must be put in place to prevent practices such as land banking that perpetuate the blight that comes with vacant lots. At the very minimum, the city must allow for community input. With the CRA land, it is more than just finding any project. It's about finding the right projects. And who better to determine what gets built in a community than the community members themselves? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Followed by Steve.
Good morning, Council
Followed
members.
by F. Ford, maybe it is. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mark, go right ahead.
Good morning, Council members. My name is Mark Glassick, and I am a community liaison with Community Health Councils, a health policy and advocacy nonprofit organization based in South Los Angeles. Today, I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Coalition for an Active South LA, which aims to reduce chronic disease disparities in South LA by using land use policy to make the places where we live, work, and play healthier. At our core, we believe that neighborhoods should not be hazardous to our health. Across the nation, we are seeing that the economy of our cities is inseparably vested in the health of our neighborhoods. Parks, community gardens, and living streets can bring significant economic dividends. We must expand our focus from outmoded and antiquated metrics of economic development and shift to a new model where we factor in the unlimited potential of a healthy, green, equitable, and vibrant city. We must factor in the effect of vacant lots on our neighborhoods. We lose out economically and socially when vacant lots persist in under-resourced communities. The city's work with transit-oriented development is a very promising step in the right direction.
Thank you. Steve, I'm going to bump you and get Felicia Ford to come. See, you didn't put your first name, so I didn't recognize you till I saw you, so I knew, Steve, you were in trouble. Felicia, it's good to see you again. It's been a while.
It's good to see you too, Presiding President Herb Orson. I have the utmost respect for you. You know, I came to speak on another item, but I will speak on item 20 and just kind of put it together. The economic development is certainly a lifeline of survival for everyone, not just in the city of Los Angeles, but the county as a whole. I want to say to the whole entire body of council here is that I would be very, very careful as to how you vote and in the coming up forward. And you know, I'm really disappointed with regards to some of the things that have been going on. I know I'm not supposed to speak on this item, but just 20, and that's how you redistrict, you know, the 9th district and the 8th district.
She is not talking about this item.
And I apologize, but I will stick with 20. I want to say, be careful as to how you vote. You don't want to...
That's your time, Felicia, and I know exactly what you were saying. And Mr. City Attorney, I did not hear her, so that's why I did not stop her. Steve?
Okay.
Followed by, I think it's Chana Grace.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was happy to let the lady go first.
Thank you.
Steve Koffroth with AFSCME. As you know, we represent the employees of the former CRA LA, and I've been here a number of times to testify to you. I want to share two items of concern with respect to this particular item. And that is the concept of going to a private nonprofit entity. One of the examples that was touted in the CLA's report was the model in San Diego. And in San Diego, they have not one but two private nonprofit organizations doing development there, and both of the heads have recently been under indictment and scrutiny for improper activities. Certainly, it is a myth that The public cannot be creative and cannot solve these things, and the CRA-LA is proof of that. They've accomplished wonderful things in this, and I want to reiterate what I said yesterday about helping these employees continue their work with the city, doing the great work for this community, and helping them do your economic development. Please find a way to help them transition to those jobs. Thank you.
Yes. Chandler, please come forward.
Good morning. I have been in the community development field and producing affordable housing, including permanent supportive housing in this great city for almost 30 years. I believe we have an extraordinary opportunity to put in place a city department that is built on a foundation of community input, collaboration, cooperation, and equity. The selected consultant should be charged with seeking out not only national best practices, but learning from local users of the past agency what worked well and what didn't. You have a field of local nonprofit practitioners that can assist you in creating an economic development department, but beyond anything yet seen in this country. We urge you to carefully consider the selection criteria for the consultant that will provide the blueprint for this new agency. At a minimum, make sure this person
Finish your sentence.
Speaks and learns outside the box.
Thank you. Okay. The public comment on this item is concluded. Mr. Buscaino. And Jerry, if you and your staff could come forward.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the committee members for moving this forward. And one of my highest priorities, colleagues, for local economic development is creating a supportive environment for our small businesses. And as we know, our small businesses are the backbone of our local economy here in Los Angeles. So, Mr. Miller, how can the specific needs of small businesses be supported by this new economic development department and/or nonprofit, for that matter?
Well, I think that's one of the many issues that as we proceed and actually implement something is going to have to be addressed. The focus on small business, the focus on even potentially the types of small business, I think they all are definitely going to have to be addressed. But sure. I think the intent is to have an organization in place that is nimble and can react quickly so that we can attract the right kinds of small business and make it easier for them to locate.
Thank you for that. You know, some of my small businesses in my districts have benefited from the CRA and forgivable loan programs administered by the CRA for specific improvements. Could this new department and/or nonprofit take on that type of program citywide?
Yes, I think conceptually, yes, it could. Now, how to do that is something that we're going to have to work on, because the CRA is gone. The land use powers and some of the authorities that they had under state law are gone, and some of those things we don't possess. So we need to identify what powers we do need so that we can, in fact, do that, whether it's forgivable loans, whether it's land write-downs. It's also going to depend somewhat on the source of funding and how restrictive that is, whether it's federal funding or state funding, grant funding, CDBG, that sort of thing.
I appreciate that. You know, we've really taken advantage of the Harbor Watts Economic Development Corporation in my district, and I just want to see that come to just move forward and celebrating their successes. One of my goals of this effort is to make better use of the city's land assets and to improve our management and leasing of existing facilities. And I'd like to make sure, and I want to make sure, that we use our proprietary departments such as the Port of Los Angeles and the Harbor Department, and to make sure that they are brought in as early as possible and use them as key stakeholders and partner in this effort. In my district specifically, there are some underutilized facilities managed by Rec and Parks, such as the Cabrillo Beach Bathhouse, that can be targeted for revitalization. I believe there are lots of opportunities, not only in my district but citywide, that we can use to leverage for local economic development. Specifically in Wilmington, I know that we can bring in development to the waterfront and new businesses, to industrial properties, specifically in Wilmington. I just want to make sure that we don't forget about us down south and moving this forward. So I support this and move forward, and thank you for your leadership on this.
Mr. Correct.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just note that in the Personnel Committee, we had a slightly different take on it, and rather than approving the consultant to, among other things, set up the nonprofit, we basically said to have the consultant look at whether or not to set up a nonprofit. So I don't know if we're taking it a step ahead or whether we are all sold on this concept. I know in our committee we weren't. So we wanted the consultant to come back with the pros and cons of that, and having studied it and be ready to go, but not necessarily with the assumption that we absolutely were wedded to the nonprofit approach.
Mr. Reyes.
As I reviewed the report from the Jobs and Business Development Committee, and point number 6, where you have reference to advise the city on best management practices for management of the city's real estate portfolio. Is this the same effort that we had been discussing during budget when we spoke with the CAO and your office to bring in the skill set to understand how to assess our assets, our properties, so that we can form public-private partnerships to find ways to create revenue for the city, understanding that we have a significant role as landlords, if you will. Is this the same position, or is this something different?
No, it is essentially the same position. Exactly. It's recognizing how valuable our assets can be, and to look at best management practices and to bring in a consultant to figure out how to manage those assets in the context of economic development.
So understanding the how, but implementation is key.
Yes.
So implementation requires that we have buy-in from the departments who will cooperate with the consultants, so we can have real traction and put it together, real RFPs, real bids, real relationships in a public-private partnership setting. Is this going to take us to that point, or is it just going to give us a how-to kind of direction? Are we talking about implementation, or are we just talking about directives and best practices that just might sit on the shelf? We're not sure. I'm being a little aggressive here, but I want to get to the implementation. I've been asking for this for many years, and it looks like we're finally getting to a point we can implement. And that's my key question. Is it implementable?
Yes. The intent of this would be to tell us what the best management practices are, and to tell us exactly how to implement that within the structure that we're talking about. In terms of the proprietary departments, I do think it's vitally important that they be included. We could start immediately, obviously, with the council-controlled properties, and those are very important too. We do need to get buy-in from the proprietaries to participate in this to make it really effective.
An experience that I had in working with the issue on Sunset and Grand, where I have very little notice and or cooperation from the staff in the mayor's office about how permits were filed and how issues were addressed on that particular supermarket site. Given the charter changes, we no longer hire or fire the department heads. What makes us feel as council that we're going to have that level of discretion in understanding what is going to happen in our own districts? How will we address that issue?
Well, with the concept of the structure of the nonprofit, that gets addressed in the contract with the nonprofit to actually deliver the goods, to actually deliver the businesses. That contract will be long, it will be complicated, but that will spell out exactly what they need to do to make sure that you and your colleagues are aware of and buy into and can further the development within your communities in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, I would hate to be in a position where we are now rubber stamping decisions made before, because we were never included at the beginning of the discussions and or given any kind of information by department heads, because we were not allowed in the process, given how these meetings tend to occur in the past. So that will be folded in the instructions and how this entity will perform?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Before I call Mr. Kokoria, Deputy Mayor Matt Koretz, if you want to join the center table, if you want to add from the mayor's office on any perspective. Do you want to say anything right now, Matt, or do you want to just add later?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to say anything and address the council now on this issue?
I would.
Okay.
That's okay. Good afternoon.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. One is Los Angeles has an unemployment rate and poverty rate higher than that of the state, the nation, and many of our competitor cities. Los Angeles has historically underperformed in generating sales tax revenue. This year, Los Angeles ranks 51 out of our 88 cities in the county in sales tax generation on a per capita basis. Reports indicate that Los Angeles is losing an estimated 8% of sales tax revenue to surrounding cities, which represents approximately $104 million that could be contributed back to the city. Over the last several years, the city has faced tough budgetary decisions that have required shared sacrifice. We can keep cutting sorely needed services. We can attempt to tax our way back to fiscal stability, or we can commit to growing our revenue base and impacting the lives of Angelenos through economic development efforts. However, to enable the city to achieve our mutual economic goals of creating jobs, generating revenue, and providing economic opportunity for underserved communities, we have to have a consolidated citywide strategy. This strategy must be coupled with a consolidated economic development entity. Since the elimination of the CRA, our office has studied economic development models throughout the country, including those in place in cities like Austin, San Francisco, Chicago, San Diego, New York, Houston, and Cincinnati. Each offered unique programs and utilized different tools. The one thing that was noticeable in each of these sample cities was a commitment to a single place, single entity, single team focused exclusively on citywide economic development strategy and implementation plan with the necessary tools required to be effective. We do not believe Los Angeles must invent a new concept. It simply should consider best practices across the country and commit to a model that fits our needs the best, of course, modifying it accordingly. Successful models across the country offer streamlined information sharing and implementation practices that allow projects to be completed, are directly responsible for jobs being created and for businesses being retained. We are in support of a creation of a nonprofit entity because a nonprofit entity provides the city with the ability to better implement an economic development program. As we've seen in many other cities, it is paramount to create an environment of true public-private partnership and a commitment to making economic development successful. As a key component of a true public-private partnership is our ability to leverage private financial resources, a critical component to a successful model as we continue to face continued funding shortfalls in Washington and Sacramento. A nonprofit organization provides the city with that opportunity to get the private sector truly engaged. While we stand in support of the CLA and CAO report, we believe we should attempt to expedite our economic development efforts. While supportive of hiring a consultant expert to work with the city family to develop a new economic development model, we believe that the CAO and CLA can and should report back as soon as possible on a recommendation of what path the city should proceed down in relation to establishing a nonprofit entity. As we've studied the potential options, we believe the options include 1, creating a completely new nonprofit, or 2, partnering with an existing organization to incubate a nonprofit to eventually spin out as a new organization, or 3, utilizing an existing nonprofit organization like the Los Angeles Development Fund and simply consider amending its bylaws and other legal documents. As a city, we should not and cannot wait for economic development. We have over 200,000 people out of work, 700,000 plus people living in poverty, and across our city there are dozens of economic development projects waiting for a city partner to step in and help shepherd. An instrumental piece to a successful economic development platform and implementation program is to establish a true partnership with the private sector, engaging them in a formal way and getting them financially supportive of the city's efforts in job creation, job retention, and growing the tax base. This commitment has to be demonstrated through our words, but more importantly, through our actions. In the fiscal year 2012-2013 budget, the mayor proposed $2.5 million for the establishment of an economic development entity. This funding was to serve several purposes: hire consultants, provide seed funding for staffing and operations, and leverage the private sector companies to invest in the city's economic development program. We've had initial conversations with several large corporate partners here in Los Angeles who have supported the idea of creating a nonprofit and indicated a willingness to consider contributing financially to the city's economic development initiative, but that commitment has always been contingent on the city also providing funding for this initiative. In the future, and in my opinion, the city's financial commitment should grow, and to truly sustain our efforts to implement a successful economic development platform, permanent revenue sources should be considered to continued contribution into this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me say how excited I am that we're having this thorough discussion about the most important issue that we could possibly be discussing right now, which is putting Los Angeles back to work. And it's frustrating sometimes, I think, when we spend so much of our time on things of relatively minor importance, when we know that the people of our city are struggling out there, that the small businesses of our city are struggling, and that the first priority of the city has to be to get people back to work, to get our economy moving, so that we can start to have a more so that we can kickstart our economic recovery, which will be the ultimate solution to the budget challenges that we're facing right now. So I want to applaud, all of those who've worked on this issue in moving this forward, and I look forward to working more with you in seeing it through. I do just want to say, though, that there's an amending motion 20D, Mr. Wesson's motion, that includes an instruction to include a $2 million transfer from the reserve fund and to direct the CAO to identify excess funds to repay that. That is an issue that actually is already agendized for consideration in the Budget and Finance Committee. So, Mr. President, if it's acceptable to you, what I would suggest is striking that recommendation number 2 from the motion and referring that item on motion 20D to the Budget and Finance Committee for further consideration of the budgetary implications of moving that $2 million. And then we will report that back. That's due for hearing already. It's agendized for hearing on June 25th, and Budget and Finance will hear that matter and then report it back to Council.
Mr. Chairman, I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
Mr. Reyes, I hope to close.
Thank you. Ms. Karras, thank you. Welcome you back to the table. Part of this process is one in which we understand the need. In my district, 40% of my district is at or below poverty, so the job issue is critical. But just as critical is the notion of trust. Now, I had an experience where right now I have seniors, I have students who are vulnerable to a very, very dangerous intersection because of permits that were pulled without notifying my office. knowing very well I was concerned with that issue. So I want to ask you, in this process, what role do you play?
We're talking about the permitting?
Yes. No, I'm talking about this entity that we want to fund, that we want to put our general fund money into. What role does your office play?
What we have done is the moment that the CRA's sort of lifeline was taken from it, we started thinking, along with the mayor, on what the city needed as
No, I
tools.
understand the need. I'm asking you, what role do you play? Someone made decisions to not contact the council office, to move permits the day before we had a vote without the courtesy of contacting that council office. Now, a decision was made. Now, is that a pattern? Is that a process? Is that a culture? Why would something like that happen? Knowing very well that we need to work as partners. The council should work as partners with your office. So I want to understand your role in this.
In this one is when we first convened a meeting, I recall the CAO's office was engaged, the CLA's office was engaged, and several of the council offices were also engaged in very, very preliminary discussions on what we should do as a city to move forward on economic development. What I have done and what my office has done since then is frankly a lot of research. And to the extent that we've gone beyond the research stage, very little else has been done from my office.
So my point to you is this. We need to do something. I want to echo the words of the chairman of Budget and Finance, that we need to get out of this hole. We need to create revenue. We need to create jobs, but not at the cost of public safety. I use that as a microcosm, one example of one decision that created, from my personal point of view, a great distrust. I would hope that when we move in the future, that this body is respected, it's notified, that we understand all parameters of every decision, because we share constituency. This is one city.
Yes.
So I'm driving this point to you, because my understanding is your office that had great discretion in that particular incident. That's another discussion for another time, but I'm making it on public record that we should be working as one city, that we both share constituencies, and we need these jobs desperately, but not at the cost of public safety issues. So I want to share that with you, and I will use this opportunity publicly to address you on that matter. Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes, and I support your point of view 100%. I know had it been me, I would have been upset. Okay, with that said, there are no more speakers in the queue. The public comment portion on this item has been satisfied. Madam Clerk, I think we should, you should prepare for the vote. Let us open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, so as amended, that has passed. Okay, I'm going to quickly go to item number 1 that was held special by cards. I do not see Mr. Sachs here, so let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Mr. Buscaino, at this time we're going to call your special, which I believe is item 16.
Thank you. If I can defer to the chair of TCT, Mr. Labange.
Mr. Labange, you'll go first, then Mr. Buscaino, and then Mr. Zine.
I'm going to have the Department of Airport staff take the center table. Our council's Trade and Commerce Committee and Tourism Committee had a special meeting this past Monday regarding this 245 motion on the issue of Wi-Fi at Los Angeles International Airport. There also was an extensive public hearing in that committee and issued a majority report which has been circulated to affirm the action of a 2-year contract for Wi-Fi. Mr. Buscaino will issue his minority report. You know, I know. I got your vote on this so I can make a mistake. Okay?
It rhymes with blue sky. Blue sky.
Here's the situation. These people at the Department of Airports have a monumental task to expand and modernize LAX. Believing it's some buildings are over 50 years old. In 1959, when the modern airport went west of Sepulveda. In this process here, they found an opportunity to immediately get Wi-Fi. But in a few short months, 24 or less, there's an opportunity to bid the whole project out. They use creative thinking to get an opportunity to get Wi-Fi in there now as someone else is backing out. So at this time, just for the rest of my time, I'm going to ask Steve Martin, the Deputy Director for LAWA, to provide further information on this issue. And I ask that we reject the 245 in all respect to the great councilman of the 15th. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members.
Okay, go right ahead.
My name is Steve Martin. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Los Angeles World Airports. On July 15th, which is 25 days from now, the current Wi-Fi at the airport, which is provided on a pay basis by T-Mobile, will end, and thereafter there will be no free or paid Wi-Fi except for the item that the Board of Airport Commissioners approved on June 4th, which is the item that's before you. And that item will have free Wi-Fi available at LAX on the day after T-Mobile pulls out, which is July 17th, or July 16th, pardon me. And that is the item before you.
Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, you know, we're here today because last week it was clear, unanimously agreed that we should take a second look at this contract and contract for public Wi-Fi services at LAX. And as I said last week, I'll say it again today. I, too, want free Wi-Fi at LAX as much as anyone. I asked LAWA one simple question. Is this the best deal we can get? LAWA's answer was, we don't know. I'm just a new councilman here, but I think that's a fair question. I think that we should always ask that question. In fact, it's what we owe to our constituents in this great city. The fact that LAWA's answer was, we don't know, was because they didn't ask anyone. The airport awarded a sole source contract that really doesn't maximize revenues, doesn't guarantee good service, and isn't even going to a local Los Angeles-based company. And when we heard this on TCT on Monday, I learned a few things. Here's what I learned. There's at least one other company out there that's willing to give us a better deal. In fact, they're willing to pay 30% more than the current contract. Also, there's no guarantee in the contract that there will be public Wi-Fi in place by the time the current vendor pulls out. In addition, there's no guarantee that the proposed contractor will invest in the amount of dollars that airport staff says they will. And if the airport were to go with another vendor, it could still be up and running before the existing vendor, which is T-Mobile, pulls out, avoiding any dark periods of no Wi-Fi at our airport. The argument that LAX will go dark and not offer any internet if AWG does not get this deal is simply not true. We can get free Wi-Fi and not go dark and get 30% more in revenue. We can get a better deal and not lose anything in the process. You know, I asked this, and something I thought about the other day. Can you imagine if the city of Detroit needing a police car and not asking Ford or General Motors for a price and still paying more anyway? You know, colleagues, sole source contracts are necessary sometimes. I get it. In the short time I've been here, I understand it. But it might not be necessary in this case. So if our city departments want to use this emergency process, so be it. But we owe it to our constituents and this city to get the best deal possible. And if we decide to send this back today, I just hope that July 15th we don't end up with bad Wi-Fi, knowing that we could have gotten a better deal and better quality. So we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to this great city, and most importantly, we owe it to our constituents. Thank you.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you. Well, I was called by the general manager of LAWA scolding me for being too harsh with representatives from LAWA. And I am representative of the San Fernando Valley, and we don't like to go to LAX. It's not a comfortable place. It takes hours to get there, and it's a very unhappy experience. I'll be very candid with you. Wait in line, you go through a security check. LAWA is not a comfortable place, number one. Number two, I don't want to jeopardize the traveling public who doesn't have the opportunity to have free Wi-Fi. And I did a little Google search at Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Bob Hope Airport, Long Beach Airport, Palm Springs Airport, San Diego Airport, Colorado Springs Airport, all around the country, all around the world, they have free Wi-Fi. Someone at LAWA is asleep at the switch and not anticipating, number one, that T-Mobile was going to bail, and number two, why have these other airports had Wi-Fi for many years that's free Wi-Fi and not charged almost $10 to utilize the system? I don't want to jeopardize the traveling public. So I understand what my colleague is supporting, but the fact is, LAWA representatives were not doing what they needed to do to anticipate that T-Mobile is going to bail, and not anticipating maybe we should get a better plan for the consumers that have a difficult time getting into LAX and getting a difficult time getting out of LAX and have a difficult time going through the screening process. So LAWA has something to answer as far as that goes. But I don't want to take this out on the traveling public, who are the ultimate ones who are going to suffer if they don't have Wi-Fi. So the message back, you're building a new Bradley terminal, I understand, the 3A, 3A, all that, but the fact is they need to get down to basics. And the basics are provide comfort and convenience to the traveling public. Because you talk to people all over the place, and I've had the opportunity to travel to different airports, they have great amenities for the traveling public. LAX doesn't have it. LAX is really far from what it should be for a city this size. And Ontario is another situation where that place has basically been abandoned by LAWA. So as far as the representatives, I'm not angry with the representatives. I'm just angry that the fact is the LAWA personnel have not been doing what they need to do. So the passengers need that. And I'm going to support this reluctantly. I'm going to support this because I don't want to take it out on the passengers. But you folks need to be aware of what's happening. You need to be aware that T-Mobile is bailing out. You need to be aware that airports around the country, around the world, have had free Wi-Fi for years. And we weren't providing that to the traveling public that are coming in and leaving Los Angeles International Airport. So the message back to your general manager, I respect her, what she's doing with the expansion, but the fact is the staff there needs to be more aware, more cognizant, and get a better job for the traveling public that has to suffer. And I will say, when I have to go to LAX, I have to suffer to get in the place and get out of the place, and it's not a pleasant experience. So I hope I make myself clear, but I am going to support the fact I'm going against my colleague on the 245. I am going to support the fact that we're going to continue with this, and hopefully it'll be a short term we get a better deal. You have any comments?
I understand and accept your criticism on the fact that we were late on this. But I thank you for supporting the fact that we both share the goal of having free Wi-Fi and improve the passenger experience at the airport. We're trying to get there.
And I think that improved passenger experience at the airport is the key. Improved passenger experience and not agonize and not terrorize. And if they go to Southwest, they're sitting out on the curb waiting to get in to get a check. I mean, that's not acceptable.
I agree.
We need to make it better.
I agree.
So the message back to your general manager is I respect what she's doing, but we need to be more aware of the needs and serve the public better than we're doing at LAX.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine, and you did make it clear to me. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like you to respond to my colleague from the 15th District's comments first, before I say anything.
I do not believe that there is a method to get to another contractor besides AWG, which is the one approved by the Board of Airport Commissioners, in order to get this implemented. If the item is overturned by the Council, it will go back to the Board of Airport Commissioners. Their next meeting is July 9th. We will have to consult with them on what path forward we want to go, and the T-Mobile contract expires 7 days after that.
Now, he said this was a sole source contract. Was this a sole source contract? How did you get to the point you're at?
It's technically a finding under Section 371 of the Charter. The way that we got to the contractor in this case was the City of San Francisco had run a competitive process to find a free Wi-Fi provider following T-Mobile in San Francisco, same as here. And the first place firm in that competition was AWG, the party to this contract. We took the San Francisco contract went to AWG and negotiated it, so it's sort of a piggyback version of the San Francisco contract, using the same parameters and the same language. And that's how we decided that we should go to AWG first, based on the San Francisco competitive process.
Okay, when Mr. Zine brought up his comment about Gina Marie and the airport and this and that, you've had many years. I've been screaming at this for years. Here it is, and we don't have free Wi-Fi and all this other stuff. Why did we get ourselves into this pickle and not just from the beginning put out an RFP, get everybody involved and all that kind of thing? What was the problem?
Well, I think there are two aspects to that. First, our contract with T-Mobile had us being paid $1 million a year, and we knew that once we went to free Wi-Fi, we would receive less revenue. And we, staff, were probably late in bringing to the Board of Airport Commissioners that dilemma of, if we have free Wi-Fi, we will receive less income than what we've been enjoying with T-Mobile. And so we were slow to present the choice to the Board of Airport Commissioners, even though I recognize TCT had been advocating for free Wi-Fi for more than 2 years. Yeah. And so that's our responsibility for failing to frame that quickly. And so the second part of it is we were looking for a bridge agreement. The real solution to an open system at LAX for free Wi-Fi is what's called a distributed antenna system. That's a $20 million investment in improvements in all the terminals at the airport. That's a major competitive process. We think it'll take a bit of time to execute that. The fact that T-Mobile was expiring soon meant we needed to have a bridge agreement. This was the way we decided to have
describe the bridge agreement. How long will that take so everybody can line up for an RFP, be part of an open process, and we pick the right one?
Well, we're working on the RFP for the distributed antenna system right now. We have a goal of getting it out on the street within 3 to 6 months. I'm hoping we can do it in the 3 to 4 month period. A selection process, including the issuance of that Wi-Fi, we will have done in less than a year, and we hope to have a new contractor on board. There is a year-long investment period to execute the $20 million of investment. So the way we structured this bridge agreement was only to be as long as is needed to implement that solution. If it happens faster, we can terminate this contract earlier. And if we do get it done quicker, we will terminate the contract earlier.
Okay, what about CD15 saying somebody else could get it in right now too by the 15th? Is that true or not?
I don't think it's accurate. I don't think there's a way that we could find the Boingo, who's the alternative provider who sent us an unsolicited proposal. I don't think we could find them in time by July 15th when this is going to expire, since we'd have to go back through the Board of Airport Commissioners to get that approved. If this is vetoed by this council, I think we would first seek guidance from the board on how to proceed, and it won't get done before July 15th.
Okay, so number one, you apologize for maybe the staff not presenting it earlier. Of course, I totally am frustrated and angry about that. But it's over now. It's Monday morning quarterbacking at this point. So the bottom line is, if we don't go forward now and then have the bridge contract, which means we could pick one within a year and then they put it in the infrastructure, we're going to go dark.
Yes.
Okay. So, colleagues, I support my chair and everyone else who feels at this point in the process, hopefully lessons have been learned, and our newest council member who pointed this out truly was bringing up a very compelling point, and I appreciate you for doing that. And I look forward, colleagues, to us approving this now, and lessons learned that 3 months from now, if Mr. Chair of the committee agrees with this, you would come before our committee and give us a status update on where you are in that process. And if you can get it out in 3 or 4 months, and we can get somebody picked and go forward with it in a timely manner, I'd appreciate it. But I would like if the chair would go with this, updates on a regular basis so we're not caught like we are now.
Okay, Mr. Rosendahl, thank you. Okay, members, when Mr. Reyes leaves, we'll be at bare quorum. So, Mr. Alarcon for the first time, Mr. Buscaino follows him for the second time.
Can you describe free for me?
Pardon me?
You say this is free Wi-Fi?
Yes, the way the Wi-Fi works at any airport where it's reported to be free in general is that it's a hybrid system where it is sponsored in most cases with a small advertisement at the front.
How much did they make off the advertisement? They have to. So the person using the Wi-Fi, in order to get it for free, you have to watch 30-second commercial.
Correct.
How much do they make off of the 30 seconds?
We don't know yet. We think it might be $300,000 a year, and we share in that income.
How do we account for it?
They have to report it under the agreement. They have to report the income they get for the sponsorship.
So they self-report?
Yes, but we can audit them as well.
How do you can audit them?
Yes, we have audit rights on their contract.
Okay. Now you said 300,000. That's based on what?
That's an estimate based on what other airports get for the same kind of sponsorship of free Wi-Fi.
Okay. So so it's not really free. We're paying them so that they can make a profit with taxpayer money.
Well,
or airport revenue.
Well, there are costs that they incur. First, there's a $600,000 to $800,000 investment upgrade cost, and there's an annual operating cost of $200,000 that are offset by the sponsorship of the Wi-Fi. To the extent that they...
The bottom line is that they're generating revenue, and that is where the negotiation is critical. In other words, we are negotiating. They want to generate revenue. That's how they generate it, from the commercials and from the payment for Wi-Fi. If they opt out of the free service, then they make money.
Yes, the way it works.
So the question on the key negotiated deal has to do with how much you believe they are earning, and how much we could generate out of that. And so that's where the competitive nature of a bid process would benefit, because if they're the only ones doing it, but now these prices are based on San Francisco's model?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we did not negotiate the fees that would be paid to the city. We took...
No, San Francisco did.
San Francisco competed it.
They competed it.
Yes, and the result of that competition, we scaled to a larger operation at LAX. So
and was this contract, this proposed contract, the lowest bidder?
They were the highest payer. Well, it was a proposal,
the
not a bid.
The highest payer?
Yeah, it was a proposal, not a bid. I should be clear about that.
Okay.
The San Francisco selection was an RFP with multiple variables, one of which was money.
Okay.
But we did take...
My time is expired. If the president would just allow me to make one final statement, and that is, this process stinks, folks, and I can count the votes. It's going to pass. We don't want to go dark. There's some question as to whether or not it would, but you should not let the airport negotiate like this. This is a horrible situation, and I will vote for this if we amend this to call for an audit of the airport on this process. Can I get a second?
Mr. LaBonge, where are you on that?
Richard, you can do everything.
Just on the audit.
On the audit. I just want to get this done for the people. So if there needs to be some review, we can review it. Right. It's already being ordered.
If I could jump in here, this is just an up or down vote on
that issue.
on the 245.
No, but we can choose to audit.
The audit could be framed as a report back. Yes. A request.
Yeah, okay. That's
this
exactly
whole issue will be constantly on our agenda in TCT in our committee.
But on the report back, just state that we want to do an audit. With that said, Mr. Buscaino, to close.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. So quickly, legally, is this a sole source contract, yes or no?
It's legally, I believe, not. The city attorney should answer that, but I believe the answer is it's an exception from it's a provision under the city charter.
Okay. So legally, is this a sole source contract, yes or no?
It's a 371E10 contract, which is often referred to as a sole source.
So it is a sole source contract.
It is it's an exception to the competitive process under 371E10. That's the finding that the Board of Airport Commissioners relied upon in making the determination on this contract.
So it is a sole source contract.
It's commonly referred to as a sole source, but I want to be clear. The finding is in the board report. That's what they adopted, 371E10.
Okay. And can the Airport Commission, do they hold special meetings, emergency meetings? It's been done in the past, I understand. Yes or no? Can the Airport Commission hold an emergency or a special meeting?
Yes, they can.
Yes, they can. So if we have the Airport Commission meet on Monday to look at this sole source contract legally defined by our city attorney, we can, and it's a more lucrative deal that can maybe even make the airport more money. We can do this. Is that my understanding? Yes or no?
I don't think so. I don't think the Airport Commission could award it to another competitor on Monday.
How long does it take? It's not a competitive, it's a sole source. It's not a competitive RFP process. Is that my understanding? I'm just trying to, again, to do what's right for the city and for these constituents to earn something, especially for our airport. And if it's going to be a more lucrative deal and it's going to, up the ante by 30% more, this is why, colleagues, that I called for this 245. And I will continue, if there's any other opportunity I can, as in my tenure as a council member, I will look for ways such as this to move forward. So in closing, all I ask is I move that we adopt my minority report, and I ask for your support in making that happen.
Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. Mr. Rosendahl.
Mr. President, pardon me, before moving on, is there a seconder to Councilmember Buscaino's motion to substitute the minority report for the majority report?
I don't see a second at this point in time. Mr. Rosendahl, are you sure you just don't want to vote on this?
Just 1 second. The clarity is from you that no matter what we were to do, we would go dark on the 15th because you could not open it up or give it to somebody else. True or not? Do you agree with that too?
I'm relying upon the
okay,
airport
so
commission.
it couldn't happen. That's the whole issue. His point is valid on that, but a sole source at this point or to get somebody else in could not happen by the 15th.
I do not believe it could happen by the 15th.
Okay, that's back to my original point, Mr. Chair. Please.
Take the vote. Mr. Rosendahl, I'll get with you in the next couple of days and explain to you about sales. Because when you make the sale, you just hand them the pen to sign it. And I'm trying to give you this pen. All right, with that said, what are we voting on, Mr. City Attorney or City Clerk, if you would make that clear?
Mr. President, the Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee majority report to adopt the determination of the Board of Airport Commissioners and to concur with their action taken on June 4th is now before you.
Okay, on that item, let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 1 no.
All right. Next item will be forthwith. I'm getting bombarded with forthwiths. Item 10, Mr. Clerk, was held special by Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Garcetti is not here. There are no other speakers on the queue on this item. If we could open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Where does that take us on today's agenda, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, that brings us to item number 8, called special for Councilmember Labange.
Mr. Labange.
Mr. President, pardon me, we do have amending motion 8A before you.
Circulated, ask for
your desk. Strike that from the record. Now, Mr. Labange, from your desk.
Substitute motion has been circulated. A call for an aye vote.
Did we have public hearings on this?
Yes, we did in committee.
Okay.
It's amendment of the motion.
All right. And the city attorney says it's not a substantial change. So on this item, let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Zine. Okay, we'll get to that. Mr. Clerk, are there motions for posting and referral, or what's next?
Yes, sir, there are. Council has motions for posting and referral.
They are posted and referred.
The desk is clear.
Okay. Announcements, members. I have a quick announcement for Employee Appreciation Day tomorrow at my office at Venice and Western. All city employees are invited to come and feast. We will have a wide variety of foods. We like to call it a taste of the 10th, even though the foods are from all over the globe. It will begin at noon till 2. I think it's from 12 to 2. 12:30 to 2. I will be there myself. So all city employees, is just to say thank you for all of the work that you've done for me. And like I said, everything. It's not right now, so you have to pay for your lunch today. Even council members are invited if they wish to come and be questioned relentlessly by our employees. Any other announcements? Mr. Labange.
Today is summer solstice. Tonight we have a hike in Griffith Park. All members of the community invited to get to the observatory and hike to Mount Hollywood for a beautiful sunset.
Okay, now let's go to adjournings. If I can get everybody in the Mr. Parks.
Some community people that are here that put in cards for item 8 and they weren't called.
Item 8 was heard in committee, correct? And there was an amending motion that was not significant. So, Mr. City Attorney,
just to clarify, the amending motion actually more accurately reflected what occurred in committee than the agenda description. So there was not a substantial change. Okay. So thus, public hearing was not required.
Okay. Can I just ask the question?
Yes.
We have people that are here that wait for the whole meeting, and we don't intend to let them speak. Is there some way you could notify them ahead of time?
You know what? I will meet with staff and try to come up with a way to do that. That's fair. But generally, the way that it works, when a motion is heard in committee, we have already met our requirement for public comment. And so that's the way we have been operating. But with that said, I'll talk with the clerk, the CLA, and the city attorney and see if we could do. If all members in the council chambers could please, if I could get your attention, would everybody, Mr. Koretz, if we could rise, everyone please rise for adjourning motions. Everyone, sir, in the middle of the gallery, if you'd please rise. Okay, Mr. Zine, and please, let's be quiet.
This is a former member of the Los Angeles Police Department, former president of the Los Angeles Police Protective League, Danny Lewis Staggs. Danny Staggs passed away June 18th. Danny was born October 5th, 1948 in Columbus, North Carolina, to William Edward Staggs and Lois Alsott. Moved to Los Angeles in 1956, where he met and married his wife, Diane. The two have 3 children, Zachary, Dakar, and Nikki. Danny served with the City of Los Angeles as a Los Angeles police officer for 25 years, served as board member of Los Angeles Police Historical Society for 15 years, and he served on the board of directors of Los Angeles Police Protective League, and ultimately rose to president. I worked with Danny, and he was a wonderful, wonderful man. 2 brothers, Barry and Kenny Staggs, also members of the Los Angeles Police Department, and also they were directors with the Los Angeles Police Protective League. I received a call this morning from his brother announcing that the memorial will take place this Saturday, June 23rd at 10 a.m. at St. Rita's Catholic Church, 318 North Baldwin Avenue in Sierra Madre. Danny is survived by his wife, 3 children, and brothers, and he will be sorely missed. He was a good friend, a wonderful member of the LAPD. May he rest in peace. Danny Staggs.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Mr. Labange.
Staggs, I remember early in my career, he was a Central officer in Central area, and very nice, very personable, did a great job in the Protective League as well. All members for Danny Staggs.
Okay. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today I adjourn in memory of Captain Stancil G. Jones, who passed away this last Monday at 5 in the morning. Captain Jones, 86 years old, was the longest serving firefighter in the history of the United States. He retired out of San Pedro's Fire Station 112 after 55 years of service and retired on May 16, 2004. Mr. Jones, Captain Jones, was a World War II Navy veteran. He joined the fire department in 1948 and was promoted to captain in 1961. He served in the 1961 Bel Air Fire, the 1965 Watts riots, the 1972 Star-Kissed Tuna Cannery Fire, the 1992 Los Angeles riots, and the 1994 Northridge earthquake. He battled tanker explosions, war fires, and refinery blazes. Captain Jones has 2 sons and a grandson who followed him into the fire department. He is survived by his wife, 7 sons, and 5 daughters. His daughter Stacy, who many of you who may remember, was a former chief harbor engineer at the Port of Los Angeles. His son John Jones is a dear friend of mine, is my son's Cub Scout master, and gives so much to our community. And his grandson Jeremy was in my wife's 6th grade class. In dedication of his service, a column has been erected. And engraved with his picture, which overlooks the newly named Stancil G. Jones Fire Plaza at San Pedro's Fire Station 12. A story that I shared, I spoke to a former firefighter, Matt Matich, a longtime San Pedro resident, and who was also, he worked the same station as Captain Jones. And he would say prior to going to the firehouse to start his shift, Matt Matich and Captain Jones would stop at Mary Star of the Sea Parish, put in a prayer before they started their shift. And his funeral services will be this Friday at Mary Star of the Sea Parish at 10:30. May he rest in peace, Captain Stancil G. Jones.
All members on that, Joy B. Mr. Labange.
On another note, Mary DiPaolo, a wonderful woman who lived at Silver Lake down the street from the home which I grew up in, 97 years old, just passed today. She's survived by her son John, who was a great educator at LA Unified. She preceded in death by her husband Carmen DiPaolo about 21 years ago. Mary DiPaolo, a great woman of Silver Lake, 97 years young. She's in heaven.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. No other adjourning motions, member. We are adjourned.